Chapter 351. A short period of silence. What's wrong? Why don't you look happy? A mother knew her daughter's mood. Mrs. Tang immediately noticed that something was wrong with Tang Yin's voice. It's nothing. Tang Yin shook her head. Mom, can you handle the paperwork for Dad first? I'll go see you guys after school tonight. All right, go eat with Lin then. It's already 12. You guys better eat before you starve. Mrs. Tang didn't ask much as she hung up and happily went with Dean Qin to handle the paperwork. Wang Xueming had spoken to Mrs. Tang about the medical fees. Naturally, Mrs. Tang was exempted from the medical fees, and Dean Qin was given some benefits within the scope of his duties. What's wrong? Are you unhappy? Linny glanced at Tang Yun and smiled. No. Tang Yin, naturally, wouldn't admit what she was thinking. Let's go eat. Linny and Tang Yun arrived at the cafeteria. There were a lot of people in the cafeteria, and it was very noisy. But those who saw Lin Yi automatically made a path for them. Lin Yi had already surpassed the Big Four in school. Pinliang and Zhou Ruoming had been beaten up so badly that they didn't even dare fight back. Who would dare mess with someone like that? Tang Yin ordered 2 vegetable dishes and a meat dish, along with half a kilo of rice. The two found a table and sat down. There were already 2 students eating at the table, but when they saw Lin Yi, they quickly gulped down their food and moved away. Lin Yi was speechless. He didn't think that his notoriety would reach this point. In fact, Lin Yi hadn't done anything bad, nor was he a bully like Zhou Ruoming. All he did was teach Zhou Ruoming and Pinliang a lesson. He didn't do anything else, did he? Tang Yin put the food on the table and realized that she'd been in too much of a rush. There were a lot of people in the line, so she just ordered half a kilo of rice. It was a little hard to eat now. Tang Yin wanted to get another bowl, but was afraid that Lin Yi would think that she didn't like eating with him. She was hesitating when Lin Yi spoke up. Let's eat together. You don't mind, do you? Yeah. Tang Yin shook her head. Since Lin Yi said that, she couldn't go get another bowl. She was a little shy, but she still agreed. Tang Yin carefully ate the other side of the rice, feeling countless eyes on her. There were couples eating in the cafeteria, but very few dared to eat a plate of rice in public. Lin Yi and Tang Yin didn't think about eating a plate of rice before. It was only because of their carelessness that they ended up in this situation. In fact, there weren't many students who dared to look at him directly. Who would want to mess with him? If they looked at him for too long and he misunderstood that they were interested in Tang Yun, it wouldn't be worth it to get beaten up. Tang Yin didn't have a big appetite. She ate a little and was full. She quickly put down her chopsticks and looked around. Seeing that no one was looking, she let out a sigh of relief. But now, it wasn't a matter of whether she hated Lin Yi or not. It was a matter of whether Lin Yi hated her or not. She didn't eat much and was already full. The rest of the rice would be Lin Yi's. He must eat the part that she ate. Did this count as an indirect kiss? Tang Yin felt like she had a little white rabbit in her arms. She jumped up and down. She was a little shy, but also a little excited. She thought about what she said on the phone last night. She still owed him a kiss. In what form and in what way would this kiss be given to him? Back in the hospital, Lin Yi only asked Tang Yin to kiss his face. But now that their relationship was a step closer, would he kiss her on the mouth? Tang Yin didn't dare to think about it, but she didn't feel any repulsion. She used to feel disgusted when she saw the male and female characters kissing. If a man kissed her on the mouth, she would feel disgusted. But now, she didn't feel like vomiting. Instead, she was looking forward to it. Lin Yi was afraid that Tang Yin wouldn't have enough to eat, so he ate very slowly. But after Tang Yin finished eating, he cleaned up everything on the table. Tang Yin was stunned. Are you full? Tang Yin didn't think that Lin Yi had such a big appetite. He didn't look fat, but he ate so much. I'm full. Lin Yi nodded. Then, let's go back to class? Tang Yin didn't want to leave Lin Yi like this. Let's walk around the field. Lin Yi stood up and picked up the plates. He walked out of the cafeteria with Tang Yin and left the plates at the door. The bright afternoon sun made Tang Yin squint her eyes. She put her hand in front of her forehead to block the sunlight. She looked at the students playing on the field. She felt a sense of happiness. She met Lin Yi when she was about to leave the school. Tang Yin wanted to cheer, but there was a sense of unease in her heart. It was as if Lin Yi didn't belong to her. The happiness in front of her was short-lived. In her days, A big hand grabbed onto Tang Yin's. Tang Yin came back to her senses. She hesitated for a moment before grabbing onto the big hand. Which university do you want to go to? This was the first time Tang Yin worried about their future. She was afraid that this happiness would disappear in the blink of an eye. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. Lin Yi shook his head. He would go wherever Meng Yao went. There was no doubt about that. He smiled to make Tang Yin feel at ease. I'll go wherever you go. Yeah. Tang Yin smiled as she welcomed the sunlight. Her heart was finally at ease, but she was still worried. What if one of us doesn't get enough points? We can spend money, Lin Yi shrugged. Your worries are unnecessary. Nouveau riche, Tang Yin said with a smile, but she was happy that Lin Yi was taking her seriously. The two of them walked under the shade of the tree and found a stone step to sit down. Tang Yin seemed to have a special liking for the shade. She always liked to come here. She supported her chin with her hand and enjoyed the peace. Lin Yi stretched lazily and stayed by Tang Yun's side quietly. But this brief moment of peace, someone wanted to destroy it. Chapter 352. Does she like you? Yao Yao, let's go sit under the shade for a bit? Yushu suggested with a naughty smile. What for? Watch that Lin Yi hit on girls. Meng Yao frowned as she looked at Lin Yi and Tang Yun sitting together. She didn't like it at all. It was daytime, wasn't it? It was a work day too, and you're messing around with the school beauty instead of being my follower. She and Shu were both school beauties, so why did this guy only have eyes for Tang Yun? She was his boss, the miss. Even if he had a crush on someone, it should be her first. Meng Yao felt like she had been wronged. Was she that unattractive? Meng Yao didn't even care if he liked her or not, but the fact that he was ignoring her and going after another girl pissed her off. It was a blatant disregard. Even if he didn't like her, couldn't he just go for Shu? Why did he have to go for Tang Yun? Although, one had to admit that Lin Yi and Tang Yun in their school uniform really did look like a couple from afar. Perhaps they were a couple after all. Heh. Let's see how he hits on girls. We'll learn from him. Yushu nodded. Shu, we're girls. We can't hit on girls. Our sexual orientation is fine. Otherwise, we'd be a couple a long time ago. Meng Yao looked at Yushu speechlessly. Oh, let's go see Tang Yun then. Let's learn how to hit on handsome guys. Yushu was just finding an excuse to keep Meng Yao company to satisfy her curiosity. Is Lin Yi a handsome guy? Do I even need to hit on him? Meng Yao curled her lips. I don't like him at all. But she still walked towards Lin Yi with Yushu despite her words. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile bitterly when he saw the two misses walking towards him. These two girls were probably here to cause trouble, and it seemed like Yushu had tricked Meng Yao into coming here. With her personality, there was no way she'd get involved in something like this. Yao sis, the shade here is very cool. Yushu pulled Meng Yao to the steps under the tree, but the steps were occupied by Lin Yi and Tang Yun. Yushu didn't have a place to sit. Hey, Arrow, move over a little. Give me the shade. Yushu almost said shield bro when she opened her mouth, but luckily she stopped herself in time. She couldn't expose her relationship with Lin Yi in front of outsiders, or Yao Yao would be pissed. Tang Yun was a little annoyed by Yushu's overbearing words. We were under the tree first. Why should we give it to you? But a few days ago when she went to see Lin Yi, Yushu had asked her about it passionately, so Tang Yun didn't want to get angry. But Lin Yi didn't seem to hear anything, and didn't move an inch. Tang Yun, on the other hand, was starting to panic. Lin Yi's reputation had surpassed the Big Four, but even the Big Four didn't dare mess with Yushu. She was an existence that transcended the Big Four, and even Pinliang and Zhou Ruoming were quite afraid of her. Tang Yun had heard about how Wu Shaoqin had been punished for talking bad about Yushu, and so she was a little afraid that Yushu would take revenge on Lin Yi. Why don't we go? Don't mind them. Lin Yi had already guessed that Yushu was here to mess around, and he didn't want to bother with her. He'd leave her alone for now, and she'd leave later if she got bored. Yushu was a little depressed that Lin Yi didn't work, but she didn't want to expose her relationship with Lin Yi. She could only look at Meng Yao pitifully. There's a tree over there. Let's sit there. Meng Yao wouldn't fight with Lin Yi like Yushu did. Yao Yao, but I like it here. Yushu didn't want to leave. She hadn't heard what Lin Yi and Tang Yun were talking about yet. Then you stay here. I'm leaving. Meng Yao felt a little awkward. What was she supposed to do when Linny was hitting on a girl here? Oh, okay, Yushu said as Mingyao started walking away. She could only follow her to the shade on the other side of the tree. Mingyao found a clean stair and sat down. She took out her MP4 and started watching an episode of Pleasant Goat and Big Big Wolf with Yushu. Yushu, on the other hand, kept her eyes on the MP4 and glanced at Linny from time to time. She wanted to see what he was doing, but he was still as lazy as ever. He wasn't flirting with Tang Yun either. She lost interest and turned her attention back to Meng Yao's MP4. What are they doing? Why are they acting so weird? Tang Yun didn't understand what was going on with Yushu. She came over to scold Lin Yi and then left. What was going on? You mean Yushu? Don't bother with her. That girl is always crazy. Who knows what she's doing all day long? Lin Yi shrugged. Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi oddly. Her instincts told her that Lin Yi was hiding something from her, but she didn't know what it was. Are you close with her? She's in our class, of course I'm close. Lin Yi nodded vaguely. Oh, she likes you? Tang Yun's words were shocking. Wah. Lin Yi's eyes went wide as he looked at Tang Yun, shocked. What did you say? She likes me? Yushu did confess to him, but it was all fake. He didn't think that Yushu would like him. The girl was a little immature, probably not at the stage where she'd like guys yet, right? Yushu was a little too young for that. It's nothing. Tang Yun shook her head. It was just a sudden feeling. She thought that Yushu coming and leaving for no reason was weird, but it didn't make sense. How could she like Lin Yi? Yushu and Mingyao weren't too far. Lin Yi was in no mood at all. He felt like he was being watched by his boss. He stood up dispiritedly. Let's go back to class, okay? Tang Yun felt embarrassed with two people watching them. She stood up after hearing Lin Yi's words. She walked towards the school building with Lin Yi. Yao Yao. Shield Bro left. Yushu had been watching Lin Yi the whole time. Let's leave then. Mingyao frowned as she looked at her MP4. Chapter 353. Chapter 353. The misconcern after school. Lin Yi drove Tang Yun to the hospital before driving back to the villa. Jiang Wen's car was already waiting outside the villa. Lin Yi parked the car in front of the villa and greeted Mingyao. Mingyao was the one who agreed to the dinner with Jiang Wen tonight, so she didn't say anything. Mingyao spoke up suddenly when Lin Yi walked to the door. Don't drink so much, and don't go to those dirty places. Lin Yi paused. He didn't think that Mingyao would care about people. Her tone was commanding, but Lin Yi could hear the concern in her voice. It's nothing. Do whatever you want. Mingyao turned her head away, ignoring Lin Yi. Mingyao could vaguely guess what Jiang Wen was planning to do. Mingyao didn't usually participate in the activities of these rich kids, but she had some understanding of their methods, especially with a little spy like Yushu. She wasn't a stranger to what Jiang Wen and his people were doing. This was also why Mingyao didn't have any other feelings for Jiang Wen other than that of a sister. Drinking and playing with women all day, and now he wanted her as his girlfriend? Why? Don't worry, I'm actually a good girl. Lin Yi smiled and left the villa. Shield Bro, you go teach those two a lesson. I'll cheer for you. Make sure to embarrass them. Yushu waved her fist. I'll try my best. Lin Yi nodded. Even if Yushu didn't say anything, Lin Yi would have taught this annoying Jiang Wen a lesson anyway. He didn't want him to bother him all the time. After Lin Yi left, Yushu spoke up. Yao Yao, I have some big news for you. Oh? What did you hear when you went out? Mingyao sent Yushu out as a spy again. Lin Yi could sense her, but Jiang Wen might not be able to. So, Yushu heard everything Jiang Wen said. Jiang Wen Bro and Tai Zhao Bro said that they're going to order a chicken for Shield Bro, and they're going to record it and mail it to your dad to ruin his reputation. Then you can break up with him. Yushu said. Chicken? Mingyao blinked, ordering a chicken? Only then did she realize that Yushu was using a demonstrative pronoun. She thought it was a dish from the restaurant. She blushed and said, Shu, don't say such ugly words. Call her miss. Oh, that's a prostitute. They want to find a prostitute for Shield Bro. Yushu nodded. Yao Yao, do you think we should tell Shield Bro to be careful? No need. If he's that stupid to fall for it, he can only blame himself for being too perverted. It's just right for Daddy to fire him. Mingyao himphed, thinking that Jiang Wen was really filthy. She wondered if Yushu's brother was the same as them in the past. Lin Yi walked out of the villa and saw a Porsche 911 behind Jiang Wen's Ferrari. Beside the car was Su Taizao, the guy he met at the theme park restaurant the other day. Lin Yi didn't have a good impression of Taizao. The guy was yelling and screaming that day, and Lin Yi didn't like it at all. But now, the guy was all smiles as he greeted Lin Yi. "Mr. Lin Yi, it's nice to see you. Thank you for what you did for Bro that day." Lin Yi waved his hand and ignored him. Jiang Wen walked up to him. "Bro Lin, I didn't expect you to be in the same class as Yao Yao." Jiang Wen had already found out that Lin Yi was Meng Yao's classmate, so it was natural for him to call him Lil Bro Lin according to their age. "Ah, I guess so." Lin Yi nodded faintly. "Aren't we going to eat?" "That's right, let's go now. I've booked a room at Starlight Hotel, let's go now," Jiang Wen introduced, worried that Lin Yi didn't know about it. Starlight Hotel is one of the most luxurious hotels in the city. We used to go there a lot. There's special services too. Taizao walked over as well, patting Lin Yi's shoulder like a family member, as if saying that they were both men, and they had a tacit understanding. "Is that so? I'll have to see it then." Lin Yi nodded, looking at them expectantly. He was smiling coldly inwardly. Meng Yao was right. These two were up to no good, trying to set a trap for him. Jiang Wen breathed out in relief when he saw that Lin Yi didn't reject the idea. Taizao, on the other hand, was overjoyed. He was worried that Lin Yi wouldn't agree, but it'd be great if he did. There were plenty of programs, and he wasn't afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't be satisfied. But you'd have to pay a price for it after it's over. "Haha. Let's go now. Do you want to take my car?" Jiang Wen pointed at his Ferrari. "It's fine. I'll drive myself." Lin Yi pointed at his broken van. Jiang Wen paused, not expecting Lin Yi to drive a broken van instead of a sports car. But since Lin Yi was willing, he didn't say anything. "Sure, it's more convenient if we have our own car." Jiang Wen and Taizao got on the car and drove towards Starlight Hotel, with Lin Yi following behind. Starlight Hotel was one of the most luxurious hotels in Songshan. After all, it had dining, entertainment, karaoke, and nightclubs in one place. Just the parking lot alone was as big as a field. Jiang Wen and Taizao drove the car into the parking lot, and Lin Yi followed them in, only to be stopped by a security guard. "Hey, delivery through the back door." The guard glared at Lin Yi. "Don't you know the rules? You're new, right?" "Delivery?" Lin Yi paused, knowing that the guard had misunderstood. He shook his head. "I'm here to eat." "Eat?" The guard paused at Lin Yi's words before laughing out loud. "You're driving this car to eat? Do you know what the lowest price is here? One meal is enough to buy this car of yours." "All right, stop messing around. Let's go. I'm really here to eat." Lin Yi didn't want to argue with this snobbish guard. "I don't care what the lowest price is here. Someone's paying." "Someone's paying? Who'd treat you?" "All right, stop acting cool and get the fuck out. I've seen a lot of people like you, there's at least 8 or 10 of them every day, trying to steal something from the parking lot." The guard looked at Lin Yi with disdain. "Who'd treat you? Unless they're retarded?" Chapter 354. Chapter 354, Jiang Wen's ploy. After all, the people he interacted with were all rich people, and it was only natural for him to feel a sense of superiority. He felt like he was the cream of the crop, and he looked down on the poor. The security guard would bow and scrape to those who drove luxurious cars, but Lin Yi's old car made him think that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. "Who the hell are you calling an idiot?" Taizao slapped the guard's face. He and Jiang Wen had parked the car, and since they hadn't seen Lin Yi following them, they ran to the entrance of the parking lot, only to hear the guard calling him and bro idiots. Taizao was furious. I. The guard didn't know why Taizao had hit him, but he saw that Taizao had branded clothes all over him, and that he'd come from the parking lot as well. He was a VIP here, and he didn't want to piss him off. "I wasn't calling you an idiot. You're still fucking lying?" Taizao slapped the guard again. "I'm treating him to a meal, and you're calling me an idiot? You think I didn't hear that?" The guard froze, not expecting someone to treat someone with a broken van. Jiang Wen walked over as well, frowning. "What's wrong, Taizao? This guard is calling us idiots. Does he want to die?" Tai Zhao was very pissed off. He and Bro used to be the Songshan 4 young masters back in the day, and all the security guards and managers of the entertainment venues knew them. Now, this guard didn't even know who he was, and was even insulting him. How could he not be pissed? Forget it. Jiang Wen waved his hand faintly. He was pissed as well, but he had business to attend today. He didn't have time to deal with this guard. Let's go. Don't lower yourself to a small fry like him. The guard bowed and apologized profusely. He was very respectful to Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao, but when he raised his head, he glared venomously at Lin Yi. He didn't think that Lin Yi was a rich person. Looking at Lin Yi, he was just a poor student who drove a broken van. He didn't know how good he was at it. As a result, he didn't dare offend Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. He wanted to vent his anger on Lin Yi. After thinking for a while, he wanted to puncture his tires. Anyway, the parking lot was so big, and he didn't know who did it. He could only blame it on his bad luck. With Lin Yi's keen senses, how could he not feel this little security guard's hatred? However, he didn't care and said lightly, "You keep an eye on the car for me. If there's a problem with the car, I'll settle the score with you." The little security guard smiled bitterly, but he didn't expect Lin Yi to see through his thoughts. While he was annoyed, he could only accept his fate. Little did he know that Lin Yi didn't want to lower himself to his level. Otherwise, he would have been lying on the ground a long time ago. Jiang Wen brought Lin Yi to a private room on the 4th floor. The 4th floor was where the best private rooms were, and above that was the entertainment center. The room was very spacious, and one could see the night view of the fountain not far from the hotel through the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was a very good location, and normal people wouldn't be able to get a room like this. "Brother Lin, please have a seat. Don't stand on ceremony." Jiang Wen, on the other hand, seemed to have gotten used to the night view. He put his phone on the table and sat down. "It's been a while since I've been to this room. It's been 3 years, right?" "Yeah, and bro. Back in the day, we Songshan young masters were so powerful. Even those little security guards are bullying us now," Tai Zhao said angrily. "Haha, it's because Brother Lin's clothes are a little too simple, and the car's a little special. That's why that security guard looks down on you," Jiang Wen said with a smile, intentionally mocking Lin Yi. Lin Yi, naturally, understood that Jiang Wen was mocking him for being poor and not worthy of being with Meng Yao, but he didn't mind. The miss had sent him here today, and he wanted to teach these two a lesson for Yushu. Everything else was secondary. Plus, Lin Yi had even disguised himself as a beggar when he was on missions before. Why would he care about these looks? As a result, Lin Yi didn't mind the guard's words at all. "Ha, that's true." Tai Zhao smiled, understanding what Jiang Wen was getting at. "Lil bro Lin, you need to get Yao Yao to buy you some good clothes, or you'll lose face if you go out like this." "I did, but I'm not wearing it," Lin Yi said with a smile, naturally understanding what the two were trying to say. Meng Yao did buy clothes for Lin Yi, but Lin Yi always wore his school uniform when he went to school. "Tai Zhao, Brother Lin, this is called keeping a low profile. What's the saying? Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger." Jiang Wen explained with a smile. "Yeah, pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Keeping a low profile." Tai Zhao nodded. These two, naturally, were being sarcastic. As far as they were concerned, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to pretend to be a pig even if he wanted to. Lin Yi didn't explain. "Laugh all you want. I'll make you cry later." Jiang Wen joked with Lin Yi a couple of times, feeling a bit better. But he didn't dare make it too obvious, afraid that Lin Yi would get angry and leave. He didn't wait for Lin Yi to speak and raised his hand to call for the waiter to bring out the dishes. The dishes had been ordered beforehand, and Jiang Wen had called the hotel to prepare them before he left Meng Yao's villa. So, after Jiang Wen gave the order to the waiters, the delicacies were placed on the table one after another. Jiang Wen secretly pressed the record button on his phone. He put his phone on the table intentionally, aiming the camera at Lin Yi to record the guy's embarrassing face. As far as Jiang Wen was concerned, Lin Yi probably hadn't eaten all these delicacies before. If he really ate like this, he'd record it and use it as a joke. Of course, this wasn't the main point. The show he'd arranged was the main point. "Brother Lin, don't be so courteous. There's only 3 of us. We don't have that many rules. Let's eat." Jiang Wen raised his wine glass. "Come, Let me toast you. You saved my life last time, so I won't say any more thank yous words. It's nothing, and it's Yao Yao's orders, too. Linny raised the glass in his hand and took a sip before putting it down and starting to eat. Chapter 355. Chapter 355. Finding an opportunity. Wait a bit. Let's eat first. I'm hungry. Linny waved his hand dismissively. All right then. Let's eat first then. Jiangwen thought that Linny was probably really starved. School had just ended, and he hadn't had dinner yet. It wouldn't be too late to let him eat first. But Lin Yi's leisurely eating speed was driving Jiangwen crazy. He'd wanted to record Lin Yi wolfing down his food and make it a laughing stock, but Lin Yi was eating very elegantly. He ate quite a lot, but it was a very elegant feeling. Jiangwen had no choice but to give up on recording. Wasn't this just a waste of memory? What if he couldn't record Lin Yi when he was playing with a prostitute later? Lin Yi only took a sip of the red wine after he was done with his meal. He wiped his mouth. Not bad. The chefs at Starlight Hotel are really good. The food is really good. Of course, this place wouldn't have become our base otherwise, Tai Zhao said proudly. Back in the day, us young masters of Songshan used to come here all the time. Brother Lin, we're full now. Should we start some activity? Jiangwen, on the other hand, was all smiles as he looked at Lin Yi. He thought that if the kid didn't leave after eating and drinking, he'd be treating him to a meal for nothing. He didn't even get a single word out of the kid. Oh, that's fine. But wait, I need to go to the washroom. Lin Yi turned around to leave the room. His phone was vibrating. It was probably Ming Yao or Yushu calling. Lin Yi didn't want to answer it in front of Jiangwen and Tai Zhao. Isn't there a washroom in this room? Tai Zhao pointed at a small door in the room. I'm not used to sitting toilets. Lin Yi smiled. I ate too much. My stomach's a little uncomfortable. Haha, all right then. Hurry up and come back soon. Tai Zhao smiled understandingly at Lin Yi's words. Some people were used to squatting and didn't like sitting down. It was normal. Lin Yi went to the washroom, and Jiangwen and Tai Zhao decided to discuss their next step. They wanted Lin Yi to find a prostitute and record the whole process. It didn't matter if he was Meng Yao's boyfriend or not. As long as they gave the video to Peng Zhan, he'd be done for. Lin Yi walked quickly to the washroom and picked up the phone. It was indeed Yushu. Shield bro, I'm asking you on behalf of Yao Yao. Yushu said seriously, have you found Miss yet? Not yet. Lin Yi smiled. I just finished eating. Sister Yao Yao said you're not allowed to look for her. If you do, don't come back. Meng Yao's voice came from the other side just as Yushu finished. Shu, what are you talking about? I didn't say that. Shield bro, did you teach those two a lesson? Yushu giggled. I didn't find a chance. Let's wait and see. Lin Yi couldn't just beat them up like that, could he? He needed a reason, and Lin Yi didn't want Yushu's words to cause trouble for them. These two were clearly a level higher than Pinliang and Zhou Ruoming. It was best to let them suffer in silence. Okay, then you have to teach them a lesson, Yushu said. I'm hanging up now. You have to hurry. Lin Yi hung up and walked out of the washroom, thinking of a plan as he walked. Suddenly, he heard a familiar name coming from a private room. Sihua bro, what do you think of these two girls? They're the best in Starlight, the best in this place. I spent a lot of money to get them here. A flattering voice came from the private room. Although the voice was very humble, it was very loud, and it was obviously a little unscrupulous. Okay, not bad. A man's laughter came from the room. It was Sihua's voice that Lin Yi saw the other day. Lin Yi stopped in his footsteps. Sihua was eating here too? What a coincidence. He didn't know how Sihua felt after killing two golden class masters, but he still had the mood to come here and play with the best. Twins? What are your names? Sihua was evidently interested as he asked with a perverted voice. I'm Shue, and she's Hua Hua. One of the twins said softly, the bolder one. Okay, Shue, nice name. Sihua laughed loudly. Come, pour me a glass of wine. A smile formed on Lin Yi's lips as he made up his mind. He quickly walked back to his room. Jiangwen and Tai Zhao had discussed this before. They had to find a girl for Lin Yi no matter what. Even if he didn't want one, they had to persuade him to find one. Otherwise, they'd come for nothing. So they decided that if Lin Yi didn't want one, They'd get him drunk and force him to find one. No matter what, he wouldn't be able to escape tonight. Lin pushed the door open and entered the room. Jangwon waved at Lin passionately. Bro Lin, come quick. I've already told the manager to find us some hot girls. Sure. Lin pretended to be overjoyed and smiled. I'm full now. I can play with some girls. Good, forthright. Jangwon was overjoyed as well. He was worried that Lin wouldn't look for one, but now that he'd asked for one, it was exactly what he wanted. The girls in this hotel are all pretty good. I'll make sure you enjoy yourself. Yeah, I've heard about that a long time ago. But bro, I'm a person with high taste. I don't like normal girls. Lin said with a shake of his head. You know that the girls I usually interact with are all school beauties. I know that. Don't worry, I'll definitely find you the best. Jangwon thought to himself. He wasn't afraid of Lin choosing. He was afraid that Lin wouldn't look for one. As long as Lin had the intention, he'd get the manager to find one for him. That's good. Lin chuckled and sat down, looking very expectant. Jangwon gave Taizao a look, and he left the room. Not long after, a man in his 30s came in with 5 pretty girls behind him. Mr. Yang, I didn't think that you'd come personally. It's my honor. Jangwon smiled. Mr. Yang was the general manager of the hotel, directly reporting to the big boss. He had the final say in everything. Other people might not know who Jangwon and Taizao were, but he did. A few years ago, they were famous people in Songshan. Even the big boss of the hotel had to give them face, let alone a manager like him. Chapter 356. Having a target master in. See if these are to your liking. Mr. Yang said with a smile as he showed the girls behind him. Haha, Brother Lin is the guest today, Brother Lin. See if you like them first. Jangwon said with a nod to Lin. Oh, can I pick 2? Lin asked after one look. Of course. Taizao nodded. He'd been afraid that Lin wouldn't pick. But now he could even pick all of them, let alone 2. The more people there were, the messier it'd be. It'd be more convincing if he showed them to Chu Pengzhan. That's great. Lin smiled. But, to be honest, none of them are to my liking. Jangwon and Taizao frowned at Lin's words. Wasn't Lin being a little too picky? These 5 girls weren't top-tier beauties. But they'd still be top-tier beauties after putting on makeup. How could Lin not be interested in any of them? Was his standards really too high? Or was he doing this on purpose? But no matter what, Jangwon had no choice but to ask Mr. Yang to switch. Jangwon pretended to be angry. Mr. Yang, what's wrong with you? Is it because I haven't been here for a few years that you're not giving me face anymore? Are you trying to fool us with these kinds of girls? I wouldn't dare. Mr. Yang sweated. I'll go switch them right now. These 5 girls really weren't the best of the best in the Starlight Hotel. Taizao had told him to find some good ones to entertain the guests, and so Mr. Yang thought that these 5 were more than enough. He didn't think too much about it. Who would have thought that this customer was a picky one? And now he'd pissed off Masterin as well? It wasn't worth it, and he quickly left the room with the 5 girls. Jangwon could tell from Mr. Yang's expression that these 5 weren't the best of the best. He couldn't help but look at Taizao, puzzled. Why was this guy so unreliable? Since Lin hung out with Ming Yao and Yushu all the time, his standards must be higher than the average person's. Would he even be interested in a normal girl? I'm so sorry, Brother Lin. This Mr. Yang is really bad at handling things. Jangwon couldn't blame Taizao, so he pushed the blame onto Mr. Yang. Nothing. Let's wait and see. Lin shook his head slightly, feeling amused. Even if you brought a heaven immortal, I would still look down on you. After a while, the door of the private room was pushed open again. This time, Director Yang brought 3 girls who were obviously a grade higher than the previous 5 into the private room. Master Lin, how did it go? Mr. Yang was full of confidence. He'd brought all of the hotel's top hostesses with him. If he still couldn't pick them out, then he'd have to say that Master Lin had bad taste. Oh, let me see. Lin raised his head calmly, sizing up the 3 girls Mr. Yang had brought. He had to admit that these girls were all top quality. Lin sighed. Why did he have to go into this line of work? But Lin wasn't a savior. He didn't want to care about things like this. Everyone had their own difficulties, and he couldn't possibly understand them one by one. He pretended to look at the three girls carefully, thinking that Lin Yi would definitely keep one or two, or even three of them when Linny spoke up. Man, it still won't do. Mr. Yang, are you hiding something? Ah, Mr. Yang paused, a little unhappy. Hiding something? What? Master Lin doesn't like any of them. At this point, even Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao thought that Linny was being too picky. Was this guy just going through the motions to brush them off? Maybe he didn't even want to look? Jiang Wen had his suspicions, but he couldn't say it already. What if Linny was really that picky? Brother Lin, don't tell me that you don't like any of them? Tai Zhao's words were a little forceful after all. Even he was a little moved by these three girls. But Lin Yi didn't like any of them? Ahem. All right, I'll get straight to the point then. Mr. Yang, I heard that Starlight has two top hostesses, a pair of twins? Lin Yi pretended to be unhappy. I've heard so much about them. It's not just a rumor, is it? Lin Yi's words surprised Mr. Yang, as well as Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. What surprised Mr. Yang was that Lin Yi wasn't being picky at all, but that he already had a target in mind. Perhaps it was because he wanted to save face, but he didn't say it out loud. Instead, he was hinting at Mr. Yang through his dissatisfaction, asking him to change to someone better. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao, on the other hand, hadn't been here for years, and they didn't know who the top hostesses were anymore. So when they heard Lin Yi say these two names, they thought to themselves that this kid was an expert. What made Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao the happiest was that Lin Yi wasn't messing with them on purpose. He already had a target in mind, and perhaps he was too embarrassed to say it out loud before, but now that Tai Zhao had forced him to say it. But that wasn't a problem. As long as Lin Yi said the name, everything would be fine. Mr. Yang, that Xue and Hua Hua, aren't they the top hostesses here? Jiang Wen looked at Mr. Yang, his tone neutral. He was a little annoyed. Even if he hadn't been here for years, he was still one of the 4 young masters of Songshan. He was a famous young master in Songshan. This Mr. Yang wasn't giving him face at all. He'd already asked him to change the hostesses, and he was still hiding something. Wasn't he looking down on him? Mr. Yang's heart tightened at Jiang Wen's anger. He knew that Jiang Wen had misunderstood. He quickly explained, Masterin, please don't be angry. Xue and Hua Hua are the top hostesses here, but they've already been picked up by other customers for a large sum of money. Large sum of money? Tell them to come over. I'll pay them even more. It's just money, isn't it? I've got plenty of it. Jiang Wen panicked. Lin Yi finally had a target, and now they'd been picked by someone else? How could he let that happen? That's against the rules, isn't it? Mr. Yang sighed. The current Songshan wasn't the 4th young master's world anymore. Your families all have their own backgrounds, but there's someone here who's no weaker than you all. He's the one who picked Xue and Hua Hua tonight. Can I go get them back? And bro, let's just forget about it. Since Mr. Yang's in such a difficult position, let's talk about it another day? Lin Yi said, pretending to be a nice guy. Chapter 357. Chapter 357. The fox exploiting the tiger's might. Jiang Wen knew that tonight was a good opportunity for him to take down Lin Yi. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and he didn't know when he'd get it after today. He couldn't wait. Since Lin Yi had a target in mind, he'd have to make sure he got what he wanted. Brother Lin, don't worry. Leave this to me. I have some face here in Songshan. Jiang Wen said faintly as he looked at Mr. Yang. Mr. Yang, are you not going to give me face anymore? Masterin, it's not that I don't want to. It's just that I can't call them back from their rooms. Mr. Yang smiled bitterly. They're not easy to mess with. Oh? So you're saying that we're easy to mess with? Tai Zhao raged, really wanting to slap this guy in the face. He and Bro were Songshan's 4 young masters. Mr. Yang smiled bitterly. He couldn't afford to piss off a single one of them. And bro, it looks like your face isn't that useful anymore. Why don't we just let it go? I don't want things to get out of hand. Lin Yi said weakly as he looked at Jiang Wen. It's fine. Jiang Wen stood up from Lin Yi's words. You don't have to do that. Just tell me which room they're in. I'll go find them myself. In Songshan, other than my bro Chun, there's no one who dares fight me for a woman. They're in room 418, Mr. Yang said. Masterin, I'll be leaving first then. Please don't tell anyone that I said that. Go. Jiang Wen waved his hand impatiently, cursing the coward in his mind. He turned to Tai Zhao. Let's go. We'll fight and bro for a woman. Heh, all right. Tai Zhao stood up as well, itching to go. In the past few years, they had done plenty of such tyrannical things, so they didn't care at all and weren't afraid of getting into trouble. Most people would take the initiative to keep the peace after hearing the name of the 4 young masters of Mount Songshan. No one would argue with them and cause trouble. Brother Lin, are you coming? Jiang Wen looked at Lin Yi, who was sitting on the chair. You're a man. You need to be hot-blooded. Even if you don't do anything, you should at least watch from the side. Then, I'll go take a look. Lin Yi stood up excitedly. Actually, I'm looking forward to such a hot-blooded scene. It's just that I didn't dare to before. Huh, no problem, just watch. Tai Zhao laughed. Watch how the 4 young masters of Songshan step on people. Tai Zhao put on a righteous face as well. That was the only way to get Lin Yi to let his guard down, and they'd be able to take pictures of him later. All right, then I'll also borrow the tiger's might for once. Lin Yi stood up and took 2 steps forward. Then, he turned around and picked up a bottle of red wine from the table. I need to bring a weapon to protect myself. Ha, these things are all trash if you follow us. Tai Zhao curled his lips. The name of the 4 young masters of Songshan was much more useful than a bottle of wine. Lin Yi walked in front like a tiger, opening up a path. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao, on the other hand, were chuckling inwardly at the guy's thought. He'd gone crazy thinking about the twins. Otherwise, he wouldn't be this excited. He stopped in front of room 418, waiting for Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao to walk over before kicking the door open. His voice grew shrill with excitement. People inside, listen up. If you know what's good for you, send Xue and Hua Hua out to our young master right now. Otherwise, you'll be in for it. With that, he threw the bottle of wine in with a bang, hitting Sihua's face and causing his nose to bleed. In actuality, Lin Yi had made his voice sharper on purpose. He didn't want Sihua to recognize his voice. After throwing the bottle, Lin Yi quickly hid behind Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao, on the other hand, didn't mind Lin Yi's actions at all. They thought that he was just trying to act cool, but was also a coward, using their power to intimidate others. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao walked into the room, and with Lin Yi leading the way, Jiang Wen pointed at the twins. I'm taking these 2 girls with me tonight. You guys don't mind, do you? Jiang Wen used to say this a couple of years ago, and it was easy for him to say it now. He looked at Xue and Hua Hua, and found them to be as pretty and sweet as the 3 girls Mr. Yang had brought. No wonder Lin Yi wanted them so much. Even Jiang Wen himself was moved. If it weren't for the fact that he had to take pictures of Lin Yi, he would have taken them home himself. Sihua was stunned by the bottle of wine that Lin Yi had thrown at him. Who dared hit him in Songshan? Did they have a death wish? The voice sounded familiar, but Sihua didn't have time to think about it. He raised his head to look at the door and saw Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao walking in. Sihua thought that they were the ones who threw the bottle. He was furious. How could there be people who didn't know what was good for them? Beat them to death. Beat them to death. Sihua held his bleeding nose as he pointed at Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. Beat them until they don't even recognize each other. The 2 golden class masters beside him had been killed by Lin Yi, but Sihua still had other fighters around him. They weren't golden class yet, but they were more than enough to beat up 2 young masters who didn't know any kung fu. The 2 bodyguards beside Sihua heard the order, pouncing over like hungry wolves, each of them grabbing one of the bodyguards and starting the fight without a word. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao were stupefied. They were used to stepping on people, never thinking about the consequences. The moment they said their names, the only thing the other party would think of was to let things go. But today, the people in the room didn't even ask before starting the fight. Were they idiots? Didn't they know the rules? Aren't you afraid of getting into trouble and getting yourself into trouble? They were only thinking about themselves. They didn't think that this was all caused by Lin Yi. If it weren't for Lin Yi smashing a bottle of wine on Sihua's face, he wouldn't have ordered his bodyguards to start the fight. Usually, Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao would bring a strong follower with them when they came out. For example, the feminine man from the other day was Tai Zhao's fighter, and he had no problem fighting 1 against 3. But today, he was treating Lin Yi to a meal, and so Jiang Wen didn't bring any irrelevant people. Only when the fight was about to start did he realize that there was no one on his side who could fight. Chapter 358. Wasn't this a little too much? Tai Zhao didn't even get a chance to say anything before another bodyguard punched him to the ground. Cries and screams filled the room. People who didn't know what was going on would think that pigs were being slaughtered inside the room. Lin Yi curled his lips. Trying to mess with me? You too can enjoy the feeling of being screwed over yourself by. He used his phone to record the two's miserable state for a while before leaving room 418 silently. He took the elevator downstairs and was out of the hotel in no time at all. Lin Yi didn't drink much at all, just 2 sips of red wine. Lin Yi wouldn't get drunk even if he drank a lot. So he got in the car and drove back to the villa. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao might be the Songshan young masters, but they'd probably have to swallow their pride if they knew that it was Zihua who'd beaten them up. They wouldn't be able to get back at him. Yushu called him again on the way home, and Lin Yi picked it up with a smile. What's up? Is there something else? Yao Yao asked me to check if you did anything bad again. Yushu giggled. Haha, nothing, I'm going back soon. Lin Yi smiled. The mist was cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. She did care about him a lot. Shoo, don't say stuff like that, I'm just worried that he'll get filmed and sent to me. Meng Yao humphed, not admitting what she was thinking. Hee hee, Yao Yao's angry now. Yushu stuck her tongue out. Shield bro, did you do anything to them? Yup, I'll tell you guys when I get back. Lin Yi found it hilarious the more he thought about Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. Those two were really unlucky. He didn't know who was stronger, Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao's power. On the 4th floor of the Bright Star Hotel, in room 418, there was a one-sided brawl going on. 2 bodyguards were kicking and punching Tai Zhao and Jiang Wen, who'd already turned into pig heads. You dare hit me? Do you know who I am? Jiang Wen yelled at the top of his lungs. He took the opportunity when the bodyguard was switching hands. I don't care who you are. Since you dare to come looking for trouble today, don't even think of leaving here standing. Jiaonong replied with a cold smile as he carefully wiped the blood off Zihua's face. Zihua bro, are you all right? Do you want to go to the hospital? I'm fine, Zihua said with a wave of his hands. A small injury like this wasn't enough to affect him at all. It was just a little scary, and he didn't feel like he was losing face at all. He was a big shot in the underworld, and now his nose was bleeding from a slap? It was quite embarrassing. I'm Jiang Wen, Songshan young master Jiang Wen. How dare you hit me? Jiang Wen continued yelling while he still had the chance to speak. He was afraid that the bodyguard would land another punch on his mouth and turn him into a mute. Wait. Zihua paused after hearing Jiang Wen's words. He quickly waved his hand, signaling the bodyguards to stop fighting. What did you say? Who are you? I'm the 3rd of the Songshan young masters, Su Tai Zhao. He's Jiang Wen broen. Tai Zhao forced himself up from the ground and pointed a finger at Zihua. What now? Scared now? Not really, but there seems to be some kind of misunderstanding here. Zihua stood up and walked up to the man. Are you really Jiang Wen? Of course. Jiang Wen wiped the blood off his face dark. Do you want to see my ID? No need. I'll believe you if you say so. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Zihua. Zihua waved his hand and had the bodyguards help Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao up. I don't give *CK who you are. Zihua, double kick, great cannon, whatever. How dare you hit me? You'll have your house confiscated tomorrow. Tai Zhao waved his claws and fangs. Tai Zhao, don't make a fuss. Jiang Wen frowned at the name and raised his head to look at Zihua. As expected, the guy looked very similar to the Zihua he'd seen in the documents, except that his nose was broken now. You're Zihua, bro? Yes, I'm Zihua. Zihua nodded. Master One, is there a misunderstanding? You asked me to meet you at the nightclub on the 5th floor at 9. Why'd you come to my room early? I invited a friend here for dinner. He said he's interested in these 2 girls, huh? Where's he? Jiang Wen turned around, but Lin Yi was nowhere to be seen. What a huge misunderstanding. The owner of this room was actually Zihua. This beating would have been for nothing. Jiang Wen had been planning to get his men here as soon as he walked out of this room. He wouldn't let the people in this room have it easy. Getting their kidneys removed would be too easy for them. But now, he could only swallow his anger. Invited a friend for dinner? Sihua frowned. Who was the one who threw the bottle in here? It's that friend of mine. Jiang Wen suddenly called out to the hallway. Lin Yi? Lin Yi? Lin Yi? The friend you invited is called Lin Yi? Sihua's pupils contracted. You're saying that Lin Yi was the one who threw the bottle in here? What? You know Lin Yi, Sihua bro? Jiang Wen could tell from Sihua's tone that he knew Lin Yi. I do. How could I not know him? Sihua smiled coldly. Not only do I know him, he's my enemy. Master One, I'm sure that you've been tricked by that Lin Yi. Jiang Wen's face darkened as he fell into deep thought after hearing Sihua's words. He wasn't an idiot. He connected the dots and came to a conclusion immediately. Lin Yi had done this on purpose. He probably knew that Sihua was in this room, and knew that Xue and Huahua were here as well. That was why he'd purposely picked these two, using Tai Zhao and Jiang Wen as cannon fodder to send them to Sihua's room. In the end, a bottle had escalated the conflict, and Lin Yi was gone when the two of them went in stupidly. Chapter 359. Chapter 359. Getting beaten up for nothing. What Lin Yi didn't know was that Jiang Wen and Sihua actually knew each other, and had even arranged to meet up at night. According to Lin Yi, even if Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao weren't killed, they'd be crippled by Sihua's men. Sihua, on the other hand, wasn't a man who wouldn't react when his nose was bleeding. Master In, I can only apologize for what happened earlier. I hope you don't mind, but I've become like this as well. Sihua said with a shrug as he pointed at his face. The power behind Sihua wasn't weak, but Jiang Wen's house wasn't weak either. Add Tai Zhao's house to the mix, there was even less of a need for Sihua to start a feud. The two of them didn't even have a grudge against each other, and were even working together. It was all that bastard Lin Yi's fault. It's fine. Jiang Wen waved his hand. He knew that he couldn't blame Sihua for what happened today. The only person to blame was Lin Yi. That bastard was simply too evil. Tai Zhao, on the other hand, was a little indignant. Lin Yi was the one who started this, but he couldn't just beat someone up like that, could he? He'd never heard of the name Sihua, after all. Who the hell knew who he was? But seeing that Jiang Wen was letting it go, he didn't have anything else to say. He could only sit on the side angrily. The good thing was that the beating wasn't too heavy, just that his face looked like a pig's head. Xue, Huahua. Go accompany young Master Su to calm his anger. Sihua could see through Tai Zhao's resentment. He waved at the twins, gesturing for them to keep Tai Zhao company. Tai Zhao's face was swollen, but Xue and Huahua weren't stupids. They knew that this person was someone with a high social status, someone who was on the same level as Sihua. Plus, he was a pig now, but he'd been a handsome guy when he first came in. It wouldn't be a loss to keep him company. Master Su, Tai Zhao had been holding a grudge at first, but now that Sihua had given him these two headliners, that grudge vanished without a trace. He wasn't the kind of person who was shrewd. The purpose of coming to the private room this time was to snatch the woman. Now that he had achieved his goal, he had his face. Naturally, Tai Zhao didn't say anything else about Sihua's thoughtfulness and respect. Happily, he brought the two girls into the lounge. Sihua smiled faintly. Naturally, he knew what Tai Zhao was thinking, but he didn't care about him at all. The only person he cared about was Jiang Wen, the person who could bring him benefits. Young Masterin, forgive me for being blunt, but why are you treating Lin Yi to a meal? Are you friends with him? Sihua had to figure out the relationship between Jiang Wen and Lin Yi first. He knew that Jiang Wen was pissed off after Lin Yi set him up, but that was just on the surface. Who knew if there was a deeper connection between the two? If Jiang Wen and Lin Yi were really friends, then this cooperation wouldn't be able to go on. Friends? Jiang Wen smiled coldly. More like love rivals. Oh? Sihua narrowed his eyes. He'd gotten a useful piece of information. I was wondering why he'd set you up. I've underestimated the kid's intellect. It seems like he knew that I had bad intentions towards him all along, so he set me up after eating me. Jiang Wen said angrily. Sihua bro, you and Lin Yi. Lin Yi is Meng Yao's bodyguard. We wanted to kidnap Meng Yao to achieve our goals, but Lin Yi ruined our plan. Sihua said nonchalantly. Naturally, He wouldn't reveal something as shameful as losing 2 golden class masters. And now that the plan had failed, Gubong had lost the ability to deal with Peng Zhan. Sihua couldn't be bothered with Meng Yao, but Lin Yi, on the other hand, was something he couldn't let go of. Oh, is Lin Yi really Meng Yao's bodyguard? Jiang Wen paused. He'd had his suspicions before, but if Lin Yi really was Meng Yao's bodyguard, then he still had a chance. I thought that he had some sort of relationship with Meng Yao before, but I realized that he was closer to that Yushu. Sihua was talking about the theme park incident. Lin Yi risked his life to jump into the sea with Yushu, and that made Sihua suspicious. Yushu? Ha, that's great. Jiang Wen lost his composure a little after hearing Sihua's words. But he couldn't be blamed for that. He'd been planning to cause trouble for Lin Yi because he'd heard that Lin Yi was Meng Yao's boyfriend. Now that he was sure that Lin Yi wasn't, Jiang Wen felt quite satisfied. What's wrong, Masterin? The girl you're in love with isn't Meng Yao, is it? Sihua seemed to have noticed something. I'm sorry, Sihua bro, but Yao Yao and I are childhood friends. We grew up together. Jiang Wen nodded. I saw Lin Yi with Meng Yao when I came back to China, so I brought him out to see what's going on. That kid isn't simple. Even if he's just a bodyguard, you still have to be careful of him, Sihua reminded. He didn't mind using this opportunity to drive a wedge between Jiang Wen and Lin Yi into the fray. I will. Jiang Wen nodded. Sihua bro, you guys want to go after Meng Yao? It's all in the past, and that plan has been terminated. Don't worry. Sihua smiled. Even if it wasn't terminated, I wouldn't do anything for Master An's sake. Thank you, Sihua bro. Jiang Wen was quite satisfied with Sihua's attitude. The two had some conflict at first, but that was all because of Lin Yi. Now that things were out in the open, Jiang Wen still wanted to work with Sihua. Masterin, we don't get to know each other without a fight. We're both straightforward people, so just say what you want. Sihua smiled as he poured Jiang Wen a glass of red wine. Because of the misunderstanding, the two skipped the pleasantries and probing each other's secrets and went straight to the point. Jiang Wen glanced at the private room. Tai Zhao was in there, and then at Sihua's bodyguards. He wanted to say something, but he didn't. Sihua smiled, naturally understanding what Jiang Wen meant. He waved his hand at his bodyguards. You guys leave first. Yes. The bodyguards didn't say anything and left the private room. After closing the door tightly, they stood guard at the door of the private room. Chapter 360. Kneeling on the CPU. Hello, Mr. Su. Your name's pretty cute. Jiang Wen sweated a little at the name. It was a pretty cool name. Haha. Jiaoneng smiled. I'm from the same family as that Master Su inside. Don't worry, Masterin. This room's soundproof. We can't hear anything from inside. Right? Jiang Wen nodded. Sihua bro, I'm sure you know what kind of business my family does. My big brother used to be in charge here in Songshan, and I don't care what he does, but I've heard a lot about you, Sihua bro. You're the boss of Songshan's underground forces. That's why I'm here to pay you a visit. No matter what, Jiang Wen's words made Sihua feel good. Naturally, Sihua knew what kind of business Jiang Wen's family was in. After all, selling human organs. Jiang Wen's big brother, Anjianda, hadn't visited Sihua when he was here. He didn't think much of Sihua because he had a golden class mid-phase as his underling. But Anjianda's business back then was the kind where money was exchanged for goods. It was illegal, but it didn't have anything to do with the underground forces. Sihua didn't want to get into an enemy's business because of that. After all, a golden class mid-phase master wasn't to be underestimated. Sihua had a stronger master backing him up, but there was no need for the two to fight to the death. Even if he took care of Anjianda, Sihua wouldn't be able to dip his fingers into his business, since he'd never been in the business before. He didn't have any customers, and he didn't have any channels to sell his organs. But even so, Sihua was still a little displeased. After all, doing illegal business in Songshan without paying a visit to him was a bit shameful. Even if he didn't give any money, shouldn't he at least put on a feast? And so, Sihua was quite pleased that Jiang Wen had taken the initiative to pay a visit. Haha, Master One, I'm glad that you're thinking like that. Don't worry, there's no one I can't take care of in Songshan. If you need anything in the future, just say the word, Sihua said boldly. However, he was obviously bragging. At the very least, He didn't manage to deal with Lin Yi. Not only that, but he also lost 2 golden class masters. This was a huge loss. No. Sihua bro, I'm not here to visit you this time. I'm here to talk about cooperation. Jiang Wen waved his hand with a smile. Cooperate? Sihua paused. What was there to cooperate with this guy? Sihua bro, you know that fewer and fewer people are willing to sell their kidneys these days. People aren't stupid anymore. My brother used to lie to people, saying that losing a kidney wouldn't affect them at all. But the truth is, people who have their kidneys removed will have their bodies deteriorate. No one is falling for that anymore. Jiang Wen said helplessly. That's why I'm preparing to make a move on the homeless and beggars. Of course I have to go through you. Sihua bro. Sihua nodded. This Jiang Wen was quite the attention. He wouldn't be able to interfere if it was just selling organs. But kidnapping people on his turf without Sihua's permission was a little disrespectful to him. Sihua nodded, thinking that Jiang Wen wasn't a big deal at all. That's a good thought. No one would notice if the homeless and beggars went missing. Sihua nodded. What do you want me to do? Help you catch them, or help you solve the problem? Haha, it'd be best if you could help me catch them, but we'll do it ourselves. Jiang Wen nodded. Of course, I'll give you a certain amount of profit every month. Sihua bro, you won't be doing this for free. Okay. Sihua nodded, satisfied. Organ trading was a very profitable business, and it would be a good idea if Jiang Wen could give him a portion of the profit. Of course, Sihua bro, if you have someone who died not too long ago, you can send it to me as well. Jiang Wen said, we'll share the profit with you as well. No problem. It's a deal. Sihua nodded. Sihua wouldn't have agreed so easily if it were someone else, but he knew about Jiang Wen's family. His big brother had been doing organ trading for a few years now, and it had always been very secretive. There shouldn't be any risk in working with Jiang Wen. They'd already formed a set of procedures, and it wouldn't be exposed easily. Sihua bro, you're such a straightforward person. Jiang Wen nodded with a smile as he raised the wine in his hand. His face was swollen and bruised, but he was still very happy that he'd made a deal. With Sihua's support, his business would definitely grow. Plus, he'd learned something important today. Lin Yi wasn't Meng Yao's boyfriend, but her bodyguard. Things would be easier if that was the case, but it was time to change his plan of dealing with Lin Yi. If he really was a bodyguard, it would be a good idea to rope him in, but if he didn't, then he'd have no choice but to do the same. Meng Yao and Yushu sat on the sofa, watching TV. Meng Yao waited for Yushu to finish talking with Lin Yi before asking, Shu, is he coming back already? Yeah, Yao. Shield Bro said he's on his way back. Yushu nodded. He said he wasn't lying, and he didn't go to the miss. You can trust a man's words? Meng Yao humphed. Shu, you trust people too easily. Don't get tricked by Lin Yi. My dad said that he didn't make Mommy run away because of him, but what's the truth? I saw the note Mommy left behind, and it said that Daddy made her run away because of him. Oh, then what should we do? We'll wait for Shield Bro to come back and ask him. Yushu wondered if Shield Bro would be able to resist temptation. I heard that the only way to get a man to tell the truth is to make him kneel on the CPU. Yao, should we try that too? Meng Yao sweated profusely. Kneel on the CPU? Shu, your method is outdated. I heard that nowadays people kneel on the TV remote, and they beat you up every time you change the channel. The new CPU doesn't have pins anymore, so it's useless for punishment. It's fine, Yao. We can turn on the computer and remove the fan, and make Shield Bro kneel on it. Yushu waved her fist. Are you trying to burn him to death? Meng Yao was speechless. The CPU would burn to death without a fan. Chapter 361. Chapter 361. Lin Yi's birthday gift. Oh, it's nothing. We were talking about burning a cockroach to death. Yushu still wanted to hear how Lin Yi had taught Jiang Wen and Taizao a lesson. She wouldn't dare offend Lin Yi. She changed her words immediately. What a bastard. All you've got is your mouth. Kneel to the CPU. Who knows who'll be kneeling in the future? Meng Yao glared at Yushu angrily when she saw how Yushu was denying everything without any sense of loyalty. Hee. Yushu pretended like she didn't hear anything as she stood up from the sofa with a giggle. She ran over to Lin Yi. Shield Bro, How did you teach Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao a lesson? Tell me. Ming Yao was annoyed at Yushu's actions, but she couldn't help but widen her eyes at Lin Yi's question. She looked at Lin Yi with widened eyes. Haha, see for yourselves, Lin Yi said as he handed the phone to Yushu. When Jiang Wen was recording with his phone, Lin Yi turned on his phone as well. It was just that he kept the phone in his pocket at the beginning, so he could only hear their voices, not see the images. Bro Lin, come quick. I've already told the manager to get us some hot girls. All right, now that we're full, we can play with some girls. Lin Yi's phone sounded, and Ming Yao heard everything clearly. She couldn't help but glare at Lin Yi. Shoo, look, I told you this guy wasn't being honest. Looks like we'll have to show this recording to Tang Yin tomorrow. Let her see what kind of person Lin Yi is. Yushu looked at Lin Yi, confused. Shield bro, are you that kind of person? We'll know if we keep watching. Lin Yi shrugged, not explaining. Yushu and Ming Yao continued listening to Lin Yi's phone, and Ming Yao frowned again when Lin Yi asked for snow and flour. Lin Yi, what else do you know about snow and flour? Lin Yi didn't say anything, gesturing for her to keep watching. Ming Yao thought that Lin Yi was feeling guilty when he didn't reply. She himphed and went back to looking at the phone. Ming Yao heard Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao asking for the girls, and Lin Yi's cowardice. Ming Yao knew that Lin Yi was starting to pull something. He was a fearless man. Why would he be afraid of trouble? Ming Yao and Yushu understood Lin Yi's plan the moment they heard him smash a bottle into the room. The people in that room weren't easy to deal with. Lin Yi was using someone else's hand to deal with Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. As expected, the people in the room were pissed off and started kicking and punching Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. They could see the video now, taken by Lin Yi. Haha, Shield bro, you're amazing. You killed people without a trace. Yushu looked at the video of Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao getting beaten up, quite pleased. These two really shot themselves in the foot, trying to find a girl for you, but they got beaten up instead. Tricks like this can only fool these two idiots. Ming Yao himphed, not giving Lin Yi any compliments. Who was the one who suspected Lin Yi just now? Haha, I can't take it anymore. I'm dying of laughter. These two are really stupid. Yushu couldn't stop laughing. Shield bro, give me a copy later. I'll watch it again when I'm free. All right. Lin Yi nodded. After returning to his room, he received a call from Kong Xiaobo. The guy was worried about his second grandpa's birthday present this weekend. Boss, what do you think I should give him? I'm bringing Fawn and you with me this time. After all, and it'd be embarrassing if I gave him something too cheap. Huh. Your second grandpa, Dr. Kong, doesn't really need anything. His family won't be interested in anything you give him. Lin Yi smiled. It depends on their attitude towards your family. According to what you said, the relationship between your two families only looks like it's okay on the surface, but if it's not, they'll think that you're poor if the gifts you give them are too cheap, and if the gifts you give them are too expensive, they'll think that you're trying to act rich. Man, you're right. Kong Xiaobo listened to Lin Yi's words and nodded. If it were Kong Mingming, my second grandpa would have laughed for half a day even if he gave me a calligraphy he wrote. He's his grandson after all, and All right, Xiaobo, since you're calling me boss, I'll take care of this for you. I'll prepare a special gift for him, but it's up to him whether he believes it or not, Lin Yi said after some hesitation. Oh, boss, do you have something good? Kong Xiaobo listened to Lin Yi's words and was overjoyed. Boss, do you have a gift that can make us proud? Yes, I'm preparing something for you. But I'm afraid they won't believe it, Lin Yi said. It's fine if they don't believe me, it doesn't matter, as long as the thought is there. Kong Xiaobo nodded. Boss, no matter what, I believe you. After hanging up, Lin Yi's lips curved into a smile. Dr. Kong. When his miracle Dr. Guan brand gets bigger in the future, there's no guarantee that they won't become enemies. In order to prevent him from having unrealistic thoughts, he'll use this birthday banquet to suppress him. After Lin Yi performed acupuncture on Jinhu last time, he had an idea, to make a bone-cleansing pill. Of course, it wasn't a real bone-cleansing pill. A real bone-cleansing pill required a large amount of expensive herbs. Not only was the cost frighteningly high, but the production of those herbs also meant that this pill couldn't be mass-produced. This was a pill that old Lin had given to Lin Yi to train his body when he was young. It could expel impurities from the body and cleanse the bones and marrow. But naturally, Lin Yi wouldn't take something like this out. What he wanted to make was just a substitute. It could only expel the impurities and toxins from the body that hadn't been cleansed by metabolism. It couldn't truly change the body's constitution. But even so, it could extend one's lifespan by a few years or even 10 years. Of course, that was under the condition that there weren't any major problems with the body. This thing wasn't an elixir of immortality, it was just a detoxification drug. Even if it was eaten, it wouldn't cure the illness. Lin Yi's acupuncture on Junhu had already achieved a similar effect. This could be replaced by traditional Chinese medicine. This time, when Lin Yi attended Kang Xiaobo's second grandfather's birthday banquet, he was prepared to bring out a bone-cleansing pill like this. However, Lin Yi renamed it the Pill of Life Extension and Toxin Cleansing. Chapter 362. Boss has a way, of course. Even if this thing could be mass-produced, Lin Yi didn't want to do it. He didn't want to leak the recipe either. Rare things were more valuable. People would only crazily chase after it when it was unique. Plus, once this thing was released, it would definitely attract the attention of various forces. Lin Yi didn't want to stand in the limelight just yet. He only took out a few pills. He didn't want to say that he made it himself. He just wanted to release some from time to time. This way, he could keep a low profile. Originally, Lin Yi wanted to make a few pills and give them to the celebrities when Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company opened. He wanted to make Miracle Dr. Guan's name known. But it wasn't a bad idea to give one to Dr. Kong as a birthday gift. If he believed it, then his words would be more convincing. If he didn't believe it, then he could only pretend that he wasn't fated to enjoy such a good thing. Lin Yi originally wanted to wait for Kang Xiaobo's second grandpa's birthday celebration to make the pill. But because of this phone call, Lin Yi had to prepare in advance. Luckily, he still had time. On Saturday afternoon, Kang Xiaobo called. Lin Yi drove to Ningshi Road Station to pick up Kang Xiaobo. Tang Yun's father, Tang Juqing, was going to have surgery on Monday. Tang Yun had to stay in the hospital with her mother, so she was at the hospital. Lin Yi wanted to pick up Tang Yun after picking up Kang Xiaobo. As for Xiaofan, Kang Xiaobo had already discussed it with his parents. Lin Yi was his good brother, Tang Yun was Lin Yi's girlfriend, and Xiaofan was Tang Yun's best friend. Kang Xiaobo's parents didn't suspect anything. Instead, they thought that it was a good sign that Kang Xiaobo could bring a classmate. After all, Kang Xiaobo wasn't willing to go to his second grandpa's house in the past. The people on the other side invited him warmly, but Xiaobo continued to ignore them. Kang Xiaobo's parents didn't know that Kang Mingming had been mocking Kang Xiaobo in private. He was only pretending to be normal. The car stopped at Ningshi Road Station. Kang Xiaobo opened the door and got in. "Boss, let's go pick up Xiaofan first. She's at home." Lin Yi nodded. Xiaofan lived in the slums, so Lin Yi was familiar with the place. "Man, Fan doesn't really want to go. She said she'd go, but now she's backing out." Xiaobo sighed after getting in the car. "I tried to talk her out of it, and she agreed reluctantly. Who knows if she'll regret it later? That's normal. After all, going to see Kang Xiaoming is an eternal pain in her heart. Although she was mentally prepared for it, it's understandable that she would retreat when it comes to it." Lin Yi said, "After all, Kang Mingming hurt her. Although you want to completely forget Kang Mingming in this way, you have to consider Xiao Fan's opinion." "I understand, too. That's why I'll always be by her side. I won't let Kang Mingming bully her." Kang Xiaobo clenched his fist. "I'll protect her from harm." "I believe you." Lin Yi nodded, but even if Kang Xiaobo didn't say it, he would still accompany Kang Xiaobo and not let anyone bully him and Xiao Fan. Lin Yi parked the car in front of Xiao Fan's house. Kang Xiaobo went upstairs to pick Xiao Fan up. Lin Yi sat in the car and called Tang Yun. "Hello." The call was picked up very quickly, and Tang Yun's voice came from the other side. "Lin Yi, are you here? My dad is asleep. I can't speak loudly." "Not yet. I accompanied Xiaobo to pick up Xiao Fan," Lin Yi said. "I'm downstairs. I'll pick you up later." And Tang Yun replied softly. Before she could say anything, Lin Yi heard Mrs. Tang's voice from the other side of the phone. "Yun, is that Xiaolin? Go and play. I don't need you here. Your dad hasn't undergone surgery yet." He doesn't need you to take care of him. Then, it was Tang Yun's embarrassed and helpless voice. All right, Mom, I understand. You don't have to worry. I'll leave in a while, okay? Haha. Linny chuckled before hanging up. Kong Xiaobo supported Xiao Fan as they limped down. Xiao Fan had a limp. It was obvious when she walked. She usually sat in a wheelchair at home. However, it wasn't suitable for her to sit in a wheelchair today. I said I'd carry you down, but you didn't agree. Look, you almost fell. Kong Xiaobo saw Xiao Fan stumble and almost fall at the door. He subconsciously helped her up. Xiao Fan's outfit today was very fashionable and pure. She wore a candy t-shirt and a pair of jeans. Her hair was meticulously styled. She even had light makeup on her face. After her recuperation in the hospital, she looked completely different from her sickly appearance. She also wore a pair of exquisite sunglasses. She gave off a youthful and beautiful vibe. It was similar to Tang Yun's style. No wonder they were best friends. One could imagine that Xiao Fan had many pursuers in the past. She wasn't inferior to Tang Yun. However, fate was unfair. It made her drop out of school and stay at home. If it wasn't for Kong Xiaobo, it would be hard for Xiao Fan to walk out of her house. Although Xiao Fan's heart wasn't completely open, she was much more cheerful than before. If it wasn't for her leg, Xiao Fan would be even more radiant. Xiao Fan is very beautiful today. Lin Yi comforted her. A girl like Fan was extremely lacking in confidence right now, and he needed to keep encouraging her. Is that so? Xiao Fan lowered her head in surprise. I was afraid that Xiaobo would feel embarrassed. How could that be? It's very honorable for me to bring you out. Kong Xiaobo said. How could it be embarrassing to have such a beautiful companion? But my leg. Xiao Fan knew that Kong Xiaobo was comforting her. At least to his parents, he didn't dare to tell the truth. Don't worry. Boss said he will cure you. He has a way. Kong Xiaobo said and gave Lin Yi a look. Isn't that right, boss? Kong Xiaobo wanted Lin Yi to comfort Xiao Fan. Even if he couldn't cure Xiao Fan's leg now, he hoped that Lin Yi could give her confidence. After all, Xiao Fan knew that Lin Yi knew medical skills. Xiaobo, you don't have to comfort me. The doctors in the hospital said that there's no hope. Xiao Fan sighed. Chapter 363. Keep the good stuff for yourself. Lin Yi's answer was very standard, and he didn't tell Fan that he could definitely cure it, only saying that it was possible. But the more it was like that, the happier Fan was. If Lin Yi said that he could cure it, then Fan would have suspected that he was just comforting her. But Lin Yi's words increased her confidence. Lin Yi, can you really cure my leg? Fan was surprised and happy. Even Kong Xiaobo looked at Lin Yi with anticipation. Yes, but don't worry. Lin Yi smiled. That's not a problem. Lin Yi's house had a couple of nerve-stimulating drugs, concocted by old Lin in order to stimulate his body's potential. Lin Yi didn't need those drugs anymore after learning the art of dragon mastery, so he put them aside. Since Lin Yi couldn't use it himself, he didn't put much effort into researching the medicine that stimulated the body's potential. Even if he didn't go back to his house to get the medicine, he could just look it up or call Old Man Lin and ask for the formula. Yes. Fan nodded excitedly. She wanted to walk like a normal person even in her dreams, and now that Lin Yi had given her hope, she was in high spirits. Kong Xiaobo was very happy about Fan's change. He told her about the interesting things in school along the way, including how Lin Yi slapped Zhou Ruoming and kicked Zhong Pingliang. Yun is so lucky to find your boss. He's a good person and treats her well. Fan was happy that she found Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi was many times stronger than Kong Mingming. Isn't Xiaobo nice to you too? Lin Yi joked. Yeah, I'm boss's follower. Naturally, I've inherited boss's good traditions. Kong Xiaobo said confidently. Hee. Xiao Fan was amused. Inherited? He didn't give birth to you. Lin Yi picked up Tang Yun downstairs of the First People's Hospital. Tang Yun couldn't believe her eyes when she saw Xiao Fan in the car. Fan, you're so pretty. Tang Yun rubbed her eyes. She was used to Fan's sickly look after so many years. She didn't think that Fan would still look so pretty after dressing up. Don't joke with me, Yun. How am I as beautiful as you? Although Xiao Fan said that, she was still very happy in her heart. She couldn't compare to Tang Yun, who was already very beautiful without makeup, but compared to others, Xiao Fan was still very superior. Women dress up for the man they like. That's true. Are you dressing up for Kang Xiaobo? Tang Yun joked. How dare you talk about me? Inine, why aren't you wearing your school uniform today? Your dress is so pretty. I've never seen you wear it before. Xiaofan pulled the topic back to Tang Yun. Tang Yun blushed. The dress she was wearing was bought by Lin Yi in the night market. She threw it in the closet because she was angry at Lin Yi. Now that her relationship with Lin Yi had improved, Tang Yun naturally found it and put it on. I gave it to her. Lin Yi smiled. Oh. Kang Xiaobo and Xiaofan nodded. How? She gave you 50 kuai. Tang Yun glared at Lin Yi. Since you said that you gave it to her, when are you going to return it to me? Haha. Lin Yi knew that Tang Yun was just joking. She wouldn't really ask for money. Right, boss. Where's the present you prepared? Kang Xiaobo suddenly remembered something important. Here, Lin Yi took out an antique box from his pocket and passed it to Kang Xiaobo. Oh, what's this? It looks pretty high-end. Kang Xiaobo took the box and opened it. Boss, what's this black pill? Pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Lin Yi said a name he just came up with. Pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Kang Xiaobo repeated the name in shock. How come I've never heard of this before? A miracle doctor gave it to me. There's not a lot of it. Lin Yi said. After taking this pill, it can quickly expel the impurities and toxins in your body. It can extend your lifespan by 5 to 10 years. Damn. Such a good thing? It can't be, boss. Why would you give it to him? Kang Xiaobo's words made Tang Yun and Xiaofan speechless. Isn't he your second grandpa? Lin Yi was also speechless. That's true. But he hasn't been good to my family for the past few years. I might as well give it to Xiaofan. Kang Xiaobo wanted to say that he ate it, but he remembered Xiaofan and said it. Xiaofan was touched, but she still said, We're young. We don't need to eat this, right? Xiaofan is right. Lin Yi nodded. You're young. Even if you expel the toxins, you won't be able to expel much. It's especially effective for the elderly. So that's the case. Kang Xiaobo came to a realization. But it's a waste to give it to him. I might as well keep it for myself. I still have more when you need it. I'll keep it for you. Lin Yi smiled. You should give it to your second grandpa. Okay. Kang Xiaobo looked at the pill with a pained expression. Boss, you're not lying to me, right? Is this thing really that magical? It's not magical. It's based on science. The more toxins there are in the body, the more harmful it is to the body, especially for the elderly. If you don't pay attention when you're young, the toxins will accumulate in your body. Lin Yi explained, this thing is used to expel toxins from the body. It doesn't have any other functions. I see. Kang Xiaobo nodded. Okay, I'll give it to him since he's my second grandpa. Lin Yi drove to the provincial capital, Donghai City. Donghai City was the provincial capital. It wasn't far from Songshan City, but it wasn't too close either. It was about a 3-hour drive. Lin Yi's shabby van couldn't drive very fast. If other cars drove for more than 3 hours, Lin Yi had to drive for more than 4 hours. It couldn't be helped. The van's speed couldn't be picked up, and it would easily fall apart. When the four of them arrived at the provincial capital, Donghai City, it was already 6:00 at night. Where are we going? Lin Yi had no sense of direction after getting off the highway. He knew nothing about the provincial capital, Donghai City. Chapter 364. Chapter 364. Master's old friend Kang Xiaobo's parents left in the morning. Kang Xiaobo said that he would come with his classmate's car, so his parents didn't wait for him. The call went through, and it was Kang Xiaobo's father who picked up. Xiaobo, you've arrived? Yeah, we just got off the highway. We're at the entrance of Donghai City. Kang Xiaobo said, Dad, where are you staying? I'll go look for you. I'm staying at Moon on the Sea Hotel, Sai. Kung Fu sighed and didn't say anything for a long time. Dad, what's wrong? Kang Xiaobo paused. He felt like his father had something he couldn't say. Dad, where are you? I'm staying at the hotel your second grandpa arranged for me, Kung Fu said. But, Xiaobo, bring your classmates to another hotel. One that's more luxurious. Don't neglect them. Kong Xiaobo froze. Dad, why are we staying outside? Didn't second grandpa book the whole hotel already? Sigh. Your second grandpa's family only reserved one room for us three. Kung Fu said, they can't let you come back to stay by yourself, can they? Didn't you tell them that I'm bringing classmates? Kong Xiaobo panicked. I did. But your second uncle said that he was too busy and forgot. Kung Fu sighed. Whether he really forgot or not, I don't want to pursue it. But your second uncle's words are too infuriating. He said that your classmates can just find a hotel that's 30 to 20 yuan and he'll pay for it. Look, what are you talking about? Moon on the Sea. Isn't that the hotel we went to last time? Didn't he book the whole resort? Why aren't there any empty rooms? Kong Xiaobo felt like he had lost face. Lin Yi, Tang Yun, and Xiao Fan heard his father's conversation clearly. It made him angry. He said there will be VIPs. Forget it, Xiaobo. Dad will pay for you. Take your classmate to a more luxurious hotel. Kong Xiaobo's father was unwilling to argue on this topic. Don't neglect your classmate? Okay. Kong Xiaobo hung up the phone. He was so angry that he wanted to punch the car shed, but he finally retracted his hand. What AF * King Bully? Why? Last time on his second grandpa's birthday, Kong Mingming found a bunch of scoundrel friends, and they were all arranged to stay in the hotel. Many of them even had single rooms. His friends were fine, but his classmates had to stay in the hotel. What kind of logic was that? Forget it, Xiaobo. Linny didn't think much of it. Then let's find a place ourselves. Boss, you don't know. Moon on the Sea is actually a resort. It's huge. How can there be no rooms? Kong Xiaobo said hatefully. I think they are looking down on us. Moon on the Sea? Linny was slightly stunned. Is that the name? Why? Boss, you know this hotel too? Kong Mingming looked at Lin Yi's stunned expression and asked curiously. Wait, let me make a call. Linny hesitated for a moment before opening the door and getting out of the car. Although Lin Yi didn't want to use his previous connections, this was his last mission. After the mission, he wanted to live an ordinary life. Even if he had to be the Missy's follower for the rest of his life, he would accept it. This was because this kind of life without bullets and blood on the edge was too nostalgic. However, this time, because of Kong Xiaobo, the only brother he knew after integrating into his ordinary life, Lin Yi decided to make an exception for him. Lin Yi walked to a position a little further away from the van and dialed a number. After the phone call went through, it was quickly picked up on the other side. There was a pleasant female voice. Eagle, how did you guess it was me? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. The location of the call is Donghai City. The voice was a little reproachful. At present, except for you who has a special mission there is no one there. Oh? As expected of the princess of the hacker world. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. You can immediately know my location. Even if I don't know your location, I can still deduce that your phone number belongs to Songshan. Princess snorted lightly. Locating your location is just a confirmation. Fine, I admit I'm not good at computers. Lin Yi surrendered. I have something to ask you. Is the Moon on the Sea Hotel in Donghai operated by our people? I think I saw it on a PDA before. Where's your PDA? Princess didn't answer, but asked in return. My old man took it to play games. Lin Yi sweated. And he said this mission is not dangerous, so he doesn't need that thing. Play games? Princess was obviously speechless, but she didn't have the right to criticize old Lin. She could only pretend not to hear. It's operated by our people. Okay, give me the contact number of the person in charge, Lin Yi said. His contact number is? The princess gave him the contact number. Okay, then I'll hang up first. Lin Yi noted down the contact number. Don't you have anything else to say to me? Princess asked in return. What else? Lin Yi was stunned. Goodbye. Before Lin Yi could say anything else, the call was already hung up. Looking at the phone being hung up, Lin Yi smiled helplessly. This girl, what's wrong with her again? What Lin Yi didn't expect was that the owner of the Moon on the Sea Hotel in Donghai was not only one of his people, but also an old friend of his master. Although they hadn't met before, he had heard his master mention this person more than once. Lin Yi followed the contact number provided by Princess and dialed his number. Hello, who are you looking for? After the call was connected, a deep male voice came from the other side. Uncle Tion? Linny asked tentatively. You are. The man who was addressed as Uncle Tion was not sure who this person was. I am Lin E. Linny said his name. On the other side of the phone, Uncle Tion was stunned. He fell silent, as if digesting the name. After a while, he asked tentatively, Boss last disciple? That's me, Linny said. Please tell me your code name and password in the organization. Uncle Tion was obviously a cautious person. Eagle, password is... Linny said a code that was a combination of numbers and English. Chapter 365. Know all kinds of people. Why would I need anything? Lin Yi's identity was special, but Uncle Tion was his elder, an old friend of his Shifu. Lin Yi wouldn't put on airs. Uncle Tion, I need your help with something. Just say it. Uncle Tion was a little angry. Your boss's disciple. Your words are the same as boss's. It's like this. I'm going to his second grandpa's birthday party with my classmate, but we don't have any rooms left. Do you have a place to stay? Linny asked. That's it? Uncle Tion froze. It was too simple. Are you going to Kong Light-Size birthday party? His surname is Kong, Dr. Kong, but I'm not sure if it's this Kong like I. Linny felt a chill when he heard Dr. Kang's name, as expected of a moneymaker. That's him then. Uncle Tion smiled. The entire resort has been booked by the Kong family, but I have a private villa that's not open to the public. You can just come over. All right, I'll head over now. I'll call you when I get there. Linny reminded him. I'm a student now. I understand. Uncle Tion smiled. He wouldn't ask too much about Lin Yi's identity and what he was going to do. Linny hung up and returned to the car. He said to Kong Xiaobo, It's done. Let's go. Where? Kong Xiaobo was surprised. To the Moon on the Sea resort. Linny said as he started the car. There's no room in the resort. Boss, you found someone? Kong Xiaobo was excited. We can stay at the Moon on the Sea resort too? Yeah. Linny nodded. The owner of the hotel is an elder of mine. Damn, boss, you're amazing. Kong Xiaobo was full of admiration. His eyes were blazing with passion. He could finally hold his head high and let off some steam. Didn't her second uncle not allow her to stay here? And he stayed there. It doesn't matter if he doesn't have a room. I don't need to prepare a room for him. I have a room to stay in. Seeing how excited Kong Xiaobo was, Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi curiously. This guy seemed to be able to solve any trouble easily. Did he know the owner of Donghai Ocean Moon Hotel? He knew quite a few people. Oh, well, don't be angry. Not only do we have a room to live in, but we also live in a villa. Linny smiled and comforted Kong Xiaobo. Villa? It can't be? Kong Xiaobo's eyes widened. I heard that Bright Moon over the sea has a total of 30 independent villas. Only 20 of them are open to the public, and 10 of them are for private use. That's right, boss. You know their boss. Naturally, you have a villa for private use. Although Lin Yi didn't know where Bright Moon over the Sea Hotel was, he removed the GPS from Yushu's Beetle and installed it in his car before he left. It was a very famous hotel. Lin Yi searched for it on the GPS and found a clear route to the hotel. Kong Xiaobo's second uncle, Kong Mingming's father, was standing at the entrance of Bright Moon over the Sea Resort with Kong Mingming, welcoming the guests. As for Kong Xiaobo's uncle, he was the CEO of Dr. Kang's medical group. His position was much more important than Kong Xiaobo's second uncle. He was currently in the hotel with a few important guests. Boss, that's my second uncle. The one beside him is Kong Mingming. Kong Xiaobo pointed at the person not far away and introduced him to Lin Yi. Xiaobo. Xiao Fan faintly saw the figure of that person and closed her eyes in fear. This was the person that she had yearned for day and night. But at this moment, Xiao Fan couldn't tell what kind of feelings she had for this person. Longing? Hate? Or fear? Kong Xiaobo grabbed Fawn's hand tightly and comforted her. It's okay. It's okay. Boss and I are here. No one will bully you. I'm still a little scared. Fan was a little nervous as she held onto Kong Xiaobo's hand tightly, not daring to let go. It's okay. If you're not ready, just lie down and close your eyes. It'll be fine. Kong Xiaobo comforted. Okay. Fa nodded and followed Kong Xiaobo's instructions, closing her eyes and lying down. Beep beep. Linny pressed the horn twice in front of the railing of the resort's driveway. Kong Ming took a glance at Lin Yi's car and walked over impatiently. He complained to the security guard beside him, "Can't your hotel's delivery car go through the back door? How many times have I told you? If you go through the front door, wouldn't it affect the guest's mood?" "Yes," second young Master Kong. The security guard apologized carefully, but when he looked at the license plate of Lin Yi's van, he was a little puzzled. "I don't know this car. Is he a delivery car for the hotel?" "Delivery car, go through the back door." Kong Ming ran over impatiently and shouted at Lin Yi while waving his hand. "I'm not a delivery car. I'm here to stay." Lin Yi was a little speechless. This was the second time he was mistaken as a delivery car. "Stay? This place has been booked by my family. There are no more rooms. You should go somewhere else." After Kong Ming finished, he ignored Lin Yi and walked back. Why would a stranger waste his breath on him? Kong Ming didn't have the time for that. Kong Xiaobo frowned, but he opened the car door and got out. "Zhao Ming, it's me and my classmates. We're here to celebrate second grandpa's birthday." "Oh." Kong Ming saw Kong Xiaobo get out of the car, and he was obviously stunned. Didn't he ask his father to tell Kong Xiaobo not to come and stay outside? Kong Ming didn't have a good impression of Kong Xiaobo. At his grandpa's birthday party, Kong Xiaobo didn't give him any face at all. He was cold to his big brother, which made Kong Ming feel very embarrassed. Which of his relatives did not fawn over him with the utmost respect? "Why are you, Kong Xiaobo, so arrogant? Although you're also a member of the Kong family, you're not from my bloodline. What's there to be arrogant about? All right, since you're so arrogant, then just you wait." When Kong Ming heard that Kong Xiaobo invited his classmates to his grandpa's birthday party, he subconsciously thought that Kong Xiaobo wanted to show off his family's power to his classmates. His second grandpa was the famous Dr. Kong. However, since Kong Ming already had a grudge against Kong Xiaobo, how could he let him have his way? "Since you want to show off, I'll make you lose face." Therefore, he purposely asked his father to tell Kong Xiaobo's father that there was no more room in the resort. He asked Kong Xiaobo to find a hotel to stay with his classmates and then reimburse him. Chapter 366. Tit for tat. Kong Ming looked at his father, who was puzzled as well. Kong Xiaobo's father had informed Kong Xiaobo's father. So why didn't he inform Kong Xiaobo? "Xiaobo, didn't your dad tell you? The resort is full, and we didn't arrange a room for you and your classmates." Kong Ming feigned innocence. "How about this? Why don't you and your classmates stay at the hotel next door? There's a small hotel there. It's only 30 to 40 kuai a night. I'll reimburse you tomorrow." "Oh, Xiaoming, you don't have to worry about that. We've already booked a room here." Kong Xiaobo said faintly. "We don't need you to arrange it." "Hmm? What?" Kong Ming blinked. "You booked a room here? Impossible. I've booked all the rooms that are open to the public. Who are you trying to fool? Why would I lie to you?" Kong Xiaobo shrugged, feeling good watching Kong Ming go crazy. "Xiaobo, I know you don't want to lose face in front of your classmates, and I understand how you feel." Kong Ming's words were sincere, but he purposely raised his voice so that Lin Yi and the others could hear him. "But you have to know that most of the guests for my grandpa's birthday are dignitaries. They can't even fit in the rooms, so why would there be rooms for your classmates? Plus, you're not grandpa's blood-related grandson, so there's no way they'll take care of you when arranging rooms. That's none of your concern." Kong Xiaobo wasn't angry at all. "You've booked the rooms that are open to the public, but don't you have rooms that aren't open to the public as well?" "We've booked rooms that aren't open to the public." After that, Kong Xiaobo stopped talking to Kong Ming. He opened the railing in front of the car and got in. Xiaoming was pissed off. Perhaps it was because Xiaobo knew the staff here, or maybe he'd arranged a staff restroom for them. Still, he wasn't satisfied with letting him in just like that. "Forget it. Illuminate." Kong Ming's father waved his hand. Although he also looked down on his nephew's family, as an elder, he couldn't do too much. "What the hell is this? Do you think you're some big shot now?" Kong Ming watched as Lin Yi's old car drove into the resort. He couldn't help but curse. Isn't it embarrassing to drive a lousy car? All right, illuminate. Your grandfather still cares about his face. Don't be too rude in front of outsiders. Anyway, he's a relative who doesn't interact with you all year round. If he wants to show off, then let him. He won't get any practical benefits anyway. Kong Mingming's father, Kong Tsuepu, shook his head and smiled as he welcomed an Audi that was about to drive into the resort. CEO Wang, you're here too. After Lin Yi entered the resort, he contacted Uncle Tian. Because of Lin Yi's repeated refusal and instructions, Uncle Tian didn't come out to welcome him personally. Instead, he sent a confidant to welcome Lin Yi. However, even the confidant didn't know Lin Yi's true identity. Lin Yi wanted to keep a low profile. If he was so close to the resort's boss in a high-profile manner, it was inevitable that he would be noticed by the Kong family. This time, Lin Yi accompanied Kong Xiaobo as a bystander. His main goal was to let Xiaofan clearly see the ugly faces of Kong Mingming and the others and completely erase him from her memory. If Lin Yi exposed the fact that he was close to Uncle Tian, then Kong Mingming might change his attitude and purposely get close to him to flatter him. That way, Xiaofan wouldn't be able to see his true colors. Young Master Lin, hello? CEO Tian asked me to come over. A man in his 30s walked quickly to Lin Yi's car. He didn't look down on Lin Yi's old car at all. His eyes maintained a respectful expression without a trace of suspicion. I'm Li Yixuan. Young Master Lin can just call me Xiao Li. Uncle Tian must have told him the car number, so he immediately confirmed Lin Yi's identity. Hee, Mr. Li can just bring us to the villa, Lin Yi said politely. Young Master Lin, please follow me. Li Yixuan nodded. Do you want me to get in the car, or do you want to take my car? Li Yixuan said, and pointed to a business car parked not far away. Mr. Li, please get in the car. I can drive myself, Lin Yi said. Li Yixuan didn't say much. He got in the car and pointed the way to Lin Yi. It didn't take long for him to arrive in front of a villa by the seaside. This villa had the best view out of all the villas in the area. However, there was a for personal use sign at the door of the villa. It was obviously not open to the public. Young Master Lin, the villa is ready. You can move in now, Li Yixuan said and gave Lin Yi a name card. This is my contact number. If you need anything, young Master Lin can contact me directly. Okay, thank you. Lin Yi took the name card and kept it. Li Yixuan didn't speak much. He nodded and left. This kind of person was important because of his style of doing things. He didn't talk much and didn't ask much. Young Master Lin? Boss, are you really a young master from a rich family? Didn't you say you only have a rich relative? Kong Xiaobo heard Li Yixuan call Lin Yi young Master Lin. He looked at Lin Yi excitedly. Boss, be honest. Are you the rumored rich second generation? Do I look like it? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Your brother is. Xiaofan? Kong Xiaobo wanted to tease him, but when he looked down, he saw that Xiaofan's face was covered in tears. He was so scared that his heart was about to explode. Xiaofan, don't cry. What's wrong? Lin Yi and Tang Yun heard Kong Xiaobo's voice. They turned around and saw Xiaofan's tear-stained face, however. Lin Yi and Tang Yun didn't know what to say. This was expected. Xiaofan saw Kong Mingming again. Although they didn't meet face-to-face, just looking at him from afar was enough to shake Xiaofan's fragile heart. At this time, only Kong Xiaobo could comfort her. Lin Yi and Tang Yun didn't know what to say. Xiaobo, carry Xiaofan into the room and comfort her? Lin Yi suggested. Okay. Kong Xiaobo nodded and ran into the villa with Xiaofan in his arms. Let's go in later. Lin Yi sighed. He stopped the car in front of the villa and turned off the engine. Chapter 367. Do you dare? I hope so. Lin Yi nodded. Every family has their own problems. Kong Xiaobo's family is very complicated, and they don't have much of a family relationship. Yeah, a rich family like that can't even compare to us poor families, Tang Yun said. They don't have that much wealth, and they don't have that many problems. Right? How's your brother's situation? Lin Yi suddenly remembered about Tang Yun's cousin. I gave him the money, and he should have returned it already. He hasn't called in the past few days, and I've been busy with Dad's surgery with Mom, Tang Yun said. But don't worry, I'll definitely return the money to you. I don't mean for you to return the money. Don't think too much about it, and tell your brother not to feel too much pressure. Linny said. Yeah. Tang Yun nodded and raised her head. You really don't need me to return it? No need, Linny said. Why are you so nice to me? Tang Yun was a little agitated as she looked at Linny without blinking. Nice. It's not that nice, is it? Lin Yi scratched his head. He couldn't take Tang Yun's direct gaze. Tang Yun laughed out loud. It was a serious topic, but Lin Yi's words turned it into a joke. Then do you dare to be nicer to me? Tang Yun wanted to ask Lin Yi if he wanted to be with her for the rest of his life, but Lin Yi's answer made it hard for her to continue asking. It was good that she didn't ask, though. It would save both of them from the awkwardness. Who knew what would happen in the future? For the first time, Tang Yun joked with Lin Yi. Of course. Lin Yi nodded. Haha. Tang Yun laughed happily. Remember what you said. How will you stay at night? Lin Yi suddenly thought of the problem of staying at night. Kang Xiaobo should be accompanying Xiaofan, then he and Tang Yun. Lin Yi couldn't help but get excited. Could he share a room with Tang Yun? Of course it's me and Xiaofan living together. How could Tang Yun not know what Lin Yi was thinking? She snorted and said, Don't think about those messy things. Before marriage, it's impossible. Ugh. Lin Yi sweated. Did Tang Yun see through his thoughts just like that? However, Tang Yun thought that marriage was a bit too much. At least there were many couples living together before marriage. She was afraid that Lin Yi would be disappointed, so she added, At least before you bring me to see your parents, it's impossible. I'm actually an orphan. Lin Yi sighed self-deprecatingly. Ah. Tang Yun widened her eyes and looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. You're an orphan? Yeah. Lin Yi nodded. I don't even know who my real parents are. I'm sorry. Tang Yun didn't think that Lin Yi was an orphan. Then her words were inappropriate. I didn't know you were an orphan. I didn't say anything just now. It's fine. I'm used to it. Lin Yi shook his head indifferently. But my family has an old man who raised me up and a strict master. Speaking of which, they are my elders. I'll bring you to see them when the time comes. And Tang Yun saw that Lin Yi wasn't disappointed and secretly sighed in relief. At the same time, she was happy that Lin Yi planned to bring her to see his old man and master. Although she didn't know who these two people were, she knew that they weren't ordinary people. Otherwise, if Lin Yi was willing to bring her there, it meant that he approved of her. Tang Yun thought that Lin Yi was a rich young master, but she didn't think that he was an orphan. Although Tang Yun knew more about Lin Yi and knew that he didn't have the temperament of a rich young master, she just thought that it was because he had a good upbringing. She didn't know that his background was like this. However, Tang Yun put down the idea that Lin Yi's family was out of reach. She was afraid that Lin Yi's family was rich and wouldn't admit her relationship with Lin Yi. Now, it seemed that this worry was unnecessary. It made Tang Yun feel much better. Boss, come in. Xiao Fun is asleep. Tang Yun was thinking about Lin Yi's background when Kang Xiaobo ran out and shouted at the car. Tang Yun frowned slightly. She was getting along well with Lin Yi, but it was ruined by Kang Xiaobo. She got out of the car and glared at Kang Xiaobo. Aren't you afraid of waking Xiaofan up by shouting so loudly? Kang Xiaobo didn't dare to talk back after being scolded by Tang Yun. He could only explain weakly, This villa is soundproof. Humph. Tang Yun snorted and ignored Kang Xiaobo. She walked in front of him and stepped on his foot. Then, she walked into the villa. Kang Xiaobo didn't know what happened to Tang Yun. He looked at Lin Yi helplessly. Boss, what happened to sis-in-law? Why is she so angry? How would I know? She was about to kiss me and was interrupted by you. Lin Yi shrugged. No way. Even this was interrupted by me? It seems like I'm a sinner. Kang Xiaobo looked like he deserved it. It's over. Sister-in-law's impression of me has worsened. Lin Yi was too lazy to care about him. He locked the car and entered the villa with Kang Xiaobo. Tang Yun was sitting on the sofa in the living room. Xiao Fan was lying beside her. She hadn't woken up yet. What are we eating tonight? Lin Yi glanced at Tang Yun and asked softly, Anything. Instant noodles will do. Why don't we wait for Xiao Fan to wake up? Tang Yun looked at the time on her phone. Although it was time for dinner, it wasn't appropriate for her to eat since Xiao Fan was asleep. Xiao Fan didn't wake up until 8 o'clock at night. The fear in her heart had dissipated, and her spirit had recovered a lot. Hearing that everyone was waiting for her without eating, Xiao Fan was very touched. She said embarrassedly, "I'm sorry, I made everyone worry. Xiao Fan, we are actually here to accompany you. You don't have to worry about us." Tang Yun waved her hand. "We are the happiest that you can walk out of the shadow." "Yeah, Xiao Fan, are you hungry? Boss has been waiting for you." Kong Xiaobo also asked. I'm fine with eating anything." Xiaofan shook her head. "Let's eat whatever there is. It's already so late, there shouldn't be anything to eat, right?" Chapter 368. The troublemaker is here. As for tomorrow's birthday banquet, it was an important occasion. Kong Mingming wouldn't be so rude as to make fun of Xiaofan. Although he and Kong Xiaobo were from different branches, they were still part of the Kong family in front of outsiders. If Kong Mingming were to attack Kong Xiaobo, then he would only be a laughing stock. So tomorrow was the best time to bring Xiaofan out and let her and Kong Mingming end things. After Kong Xiaobo gave the gift, they would leave quickly. "There's instant noodles here. Let's eat first." Lin Yi opened the glass cabinet and took out the instant food. There were instant noodles, instant rice, ham sausages, and other instant food. These people weren't picky people. It didn't matter what they ate as long as there was food to fill their stomachs. After eating the instant noodles, everyone went to rest. Tang Yun supported Xiaofan to a room upstairs, not giving Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo any chance. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't really care. He and Tang Yun weren't really in a relationship, and they didn't express anything. They were just getting closer to each other. They hadn't even kissed yet, so how could they live together? Kong Xiaobo, on the other hand, was slightly disappointed. "How sad. I wanted to get closer to Xiaofan, but I don't have the chance anymore." "There will be chances in the future." Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder. "Xiaofan's not in a good mood today. Even if you want to do something else, she probably won't be in the mood. Why don't you wait for Kong Mingming's matter to be resolved? Once it's over, Xiaofan will be able to open up her heart." "Boss, you're right. I was too anxious." Kong Xiaobo sweated. "I'll listen to you." "Haha." Lin Yi laughed. "Let's go, we're going to rest." With that, Lin Yi found a room downstairs and was about to enter when Kong Xiaobo followed. "Boss, wait for me." "Why are you following me?" Lin Yi turned around and asked curiously. "Hehe, boss, I want to sleep with you," Xiaobo said with a chuckle.
Fuck.
Lin Yi felt a chill. "Don't you like Xiaofan?" Boss, you misunderstood. I'm very normal. I just want to chat with you." Kong Xiaobo sweated. "I'm a little worried about my parents' attitude towards Xiaofan." Lin Yi realized that the guy wasn't worried about his sexual orientation. He was worried about his parents' attitude. "Let's chat then. It's nothing." Lin Yi sighed. "That's up to you. Fawn's a good girl, but she got tricked. I'm sure your parents will understand if you tell them the truth." "Yeah, I think so too, but I don't have enough confidence. I've been thinking that I'll talk to them about this when I can make a name for myself with Xiao Fan and make them look at me differently. But time waits for no man." Kong Xiaobo sighed. "My parents will know about my relationship with Xiaofan tomorrow. I'm afraid they'll object." "Haha, it's not impossible for you to make a career. Don't worry, I'll give you a chance soon." Lin Yi was thinking about his spokesperson. It would be a good idea to push Kong Xiaobo out, especially with the fact that Kong Xiaobo was Dr. Kang's relative. Miracle Dr. Guan would be able to make a name for himself in the market. Even patients who didn't believe in Miracle Dr. Guan's medicine would think that Kong Xiaobo also had the golden creation formula after knowing about the relationship between Kong Xiaobo and Dr. Kong. Really? Kong Xiaobo's eyes lit up when he heard Lin Yi's words. He shouted excitedly, "Boss, you're too good to me." "Heh, go to sleep. We need to be energetic to deal with Kong Mingming tomorrow," Lin Yi reminded him. "Yes, I'll go to sleep now." Kong Xiaobo nodded and left, finding a room to sleep in. Lin Yi, Kong Xiaobo, Tang Yun, and Xiaofan left the villa at 9 a.m. the next day. They still had instant noodles for breakfast. Although Li Yixuan wanted to send some food to Lin Yi, the boss didn't tell him and Lin Yi didn't call, so Li Yixuan didn't want to disturb Lin Yi. The tit-for-tat at the entrance of the resort yesterday made Xiaoming feel like he had lost a lot of face. He was the direct descendant of Miracle Dr. Kong, and yet he couldn't deal with a side relative. This made him very angry. At night, He found a familiar waiter and asked him to find out which room Kong Xiaobo and the others were staying in. He wanted to bring his men to humiliate them, but he couldn't find out anything. He could only let them go. It was impossible for them not to show up today. It was his grandfather's birthday banquet. Kong Xiaobo and the others would definitely come. Kong Mingming brought his men to wait at the entrance of the banquet hall. When Kong Xiaobo and the others came, he would humiliate them. Do you remember what second young Master Kong said? One of Kong Mingming's men, Zhu Xiaozhang, gave a few bills to the security guards at the entrance and asked them arrogantly, I remember. Don't worry, Zhu bro. A security captain took the bills and said respectfully, Don't call me Zhu bro. Zhu Xiaozhang glared at him. Zhu bro and pig bro had the same pronunciation, which made him a little unhappy. Call me Xiaozhang bro, understand? Xiaozhang bro and arrogant bro had the same pronunciation, so Zhu Xiaozhang preferred people to call him arrogant bro. He was Kong Mingming's #1 lackey. With Kong Mingming's name, he was indeed very arrogant. No one dared to mess with him. Yes, arrogant bro. The security captain quickly said, They're here. Another of Kong Mingming's men, Wang Shubing, had sharp eyes. He saw Lin Yi's broken van driving towards them. He had already memorized the license plate number. Last night, he went back and forth to look for the van, but he couldn't find it. The security captain and the guards who were in charge of guarding the door nodded. The two understood and rushed towards the van, ready to make trouble. Lin Yi was in the van. He saw Kong Mingming and his men talking to each other. They must be planning something. He curled his lips. Xiaobo, Kong Mingming is standing at the door. He will definitely cause trouble later. Be careful. Chapter 369. Why did she come? Chapter 369. Why did she come? N. Xiaofan already knew that Kong Mingming didn't like her at all and was just playing with her. Kong Mingming would never change his mind. Although Kong Mingming's family moved from Songzhan to Donghai, the two cities weren't far apart. He would have come back to see Xiaofan a long time ago if he wanted to. Why would he ignore her? The reason why Xiaofan was so determined to face Kong Xiaoming again was because she wanted to let her subconscious know that Kong Xiaoming was a bad guy. He wasn't her lover at all. Lin Yi parked the car and got out, followed by Kong Xiaobo, Tang Yun, and Xiao Fun. You guys, what are you here for? Security A pointed at Lin Yi and asked. We're here for the birthday banquet. Kong Xiaobo suppressed his anger and looked at the three security guards. He knew that they were sent by Kong Mingming after Lin Yi's reminder. Xiao Feng grabbed onto Kong Xiaobo's hand tightly, not daring to let go. She didn't even dare to look at Kong Mingming. Birthday banquet? Where's the invitation? Take it out. Security B extended his hand and asked, I'm here for my second grandpa's birthday banquet. Why would I need an invitation? Kong Xiaobo frowned. Your second grandpa? Who's your second grandpa? I think you're all liars, aren't you? The security captain spoke up with a slanted glance. My second grandpa is Dr. Kong. Kong Xiaobo was getting impatient. Don't be instigated by others. Instigate? What are you talking about? The security captain was angered. Look at you guys, dressed like this, wearing rags that only cost tens of kwai. Who would believe that Dr. Kong is your second grandpa? And you're here for the birthday banquet? I think you're all liars, right? Are you here to scam food and drink? Who are you calling a liar? Kong Xiaobo was anxious. Lin Yi tugged at Kong Xiaobo, motioning him to calm down. He glanced at the security captain and said lightly, What's your name? What the F***CK do you care about my name? I'm telling you, you liars should leave as soon as possible, or I'll call the police. The security captain sneered and did not answer Lin Yi's words. Looks like I have to give Brother Li Yishuan a call. Why are the security guards under him so high class? Kick the guests out? Lin Yi shook his head in disdain and reached into his pocket. Where did I put the business card? Oh, here it is. Seeing that Lin Yi mentioned Li Yishuan's name and really took out Li Yishuan's name card to make a call, the security captain was immediately dumbfounded. Of course, he knew what kind of person Li Yishuan was. He was the confidant of the big boss, President Tian. In this resort, when President Tian was not around, he was President Tian's spokesperson. Not to mention that he was just a small security captain. Even the security captain or the security manager was nothing in front of Li Yixuan. Previously, when he helped Kong Mingming to cause trouble for Lin Yi, the security captain was only doing it for the sake of money. But on Lin Yi's side, it was not as simple as money. If he offended Kong Mingming, at most, he would lose his money. If he offended Lin Yi, he would lose his job. Big brother, don't call. I have eyes but failed to recognize you. Please don't lower yourself to my level. The security captain was about to cry. It turned out that the person who drove the broken van was the real god. He knew Li Yixuan. Even if their relationship was not that good, and they were just friends, Li Yixuan would definitely not offend Lin Yi for a small security captain like him. In Li Yixuan's eyes, he was just an insignificant person. If he was fired, there would be too many people who would want to replace him. On the other side, on Kong Mingming's side, they did not notice the conversation between Lin Yi and the security captain. The person they were paying attention to was Xiao Fan, who was beside Kong Xiaobo. Second young master Kong, look at the woman beside your idiot brother. Why does she look like the woman you used to play with? Zhu Xiaozhang pointed at Xiao Fan and said in surprise, you don't say, but it really looks like that little slut Lan Fan. Kong Mingming also widened his eyes in disbelief. Wasn't she killed by a car? Why is she still alive? I don't know. I gave the driver 500,000 yuan to kill her. Why didn't she die? Zhu Xiaozhang also thought it was strange. I spent 500,000 yuan for nothing. Xiaozhang, don't mention this anymore. Kong Mingming glared at him. How could he casually talk about hiring someone to kill someone? Fortunately, the three of them had done bad things together, so no one could criticize each other. Zhu Xiaozhang and Wang Shubing were involved in Xiao Fan's incident. It's just the three of us. Zhu Xiaozhang also felt that he had said something wrong. This matter really couldn't be casually talked about. If it was spread out, he would go to jail. But thinking about it, Xiao Fan's family didn't have much power and was extremely poor. Even if they heard this rumor, they couldn't do anything to them. Why is Xiao Fan here? Doesn't she know that I am Kong Xiaobo's brother? Kong Mingming was curious about Xiao Fan's purpose of coming here. Logically speaking, if Xiao Fan knew that he was Kong Xiaobo's cousin, she wouldn't come here to embarrass herself. He didn't think that Xiao Fan was here to cause trouble. Since she dared to come here to cause trouble, it was impossible for her to get any benefits. He wouldn't give it to her. She shouldn't be stupid. She wouldn't come here to embarrass herself, right? I was worried that I couldn't find a reason to humiliate them. Let's go and humiliate them. Zhu Xiaozhang smiled and suggested, let's go and see what this bitch wants to do. Kong Mingming also wanted to see what Xiao Fan was here for. You guys move aside first. Zhu Xiaozhang waved his hand at the security team leader, indicating that there was nothing for them to do. Zhu Xiaozhang's attention was on Xiao Fan. He didn't see what happened between Lin Yi and the security team leader. He thought that they were humiliated badly. Yes. The security team leader was thinking about how to leave, but Zhu Xiaozhang came and gave him a chance to leave. If he didn't leave now, when would he leave? The security team leader quickly left with his subordinates. This kind of family's internal conflict wasn't something an outsider could participate in. Although it seemed that Kong Xiaobo's side was at a disadvantage, they actually knew Li Yixuan. The security team leader regretted it. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have gotten involved for a few hundred yuan. Chapter 370. A slap. Whether it was Kong Mingming, Zhu Xiaozhang, or Wang Shubin, they all thought that Xiao Fan came here by accident, and she didn't know that Kong Mingming would show up here. The most amazing thing was that Xiao Fan's boyfriend seemed to be Kong Xiaobo. Xiao Fan was shaking with anger after hearing Zhu Xiaozhang's words. She held onto Kong Xiaobo's hand tightly, her eyes filled with stubborn anger. Xiao Fan knew Zhu Xiaozhang. He was one of Kong Mingming's followers. Back then, when she and Kong Mingming were together, he followed behind her and called her sister-in-law sweet and sweet. But now, he was calling her a bitch. I don't know you. Who are you? Xiao Fan understood Kong Mingming's feelings after hearing Zhu Xiaozhang's words. She finally gave up on Kong Mingming. If Kong Mingming had a shred of consideration for their relationship, he wouldn't have let Zhu Xiaozhang say those words. And after Zhu Xiaozhang said those words, Kang Mingming acted as if it was only natural. This meant that Kang Mingming never loved her. He was just toying with her feelings. Xiao Fan was heartbroken, but she understood that he wasn't her lover. He was a demon. Xiao Fan believed all the rumors she heard before. It was said that Kang Mingming changed girlfriends as fast as he changed clothes. She didn't believe it at first, but looking at his face right now, she had to believe it. Do you think that you can't admit what happened in the past just because you climbed up a high branch? Zhu Xiaozhang looked at Kang Xiaobo with a grin. Kid, did she trick you? Don't you know she's a second-hand trash? Our second young master Kang played with her until she was ruined, and you picked her up and treated her like a treasure? Yeah, Xiaobo. This woman was left behind after I played with her. How could you pick her up? If my uncle found out, wouldn't it be too embarrassing? Kang Mingming walked over with a kind look and said to Kang Xiaobo, don't be fascinated by this woman just because she looks pure. Kang Mingming, you're shameless. Xiao Fan was shaking with anger as she pointed at Kang Mingming. Xiao Fan never thought that Kang Mingming would be so shameless. Not only did he dump her, he even slandered her. I'm shameless? I don't think so. Kang Mingming shrugged. Some people like to be played by others. Who is to blame? I'm just reminding my brother not to be tricked by some bitch. Enough. Seeing that Xiao Fan was about to cry, Kang Xiaobo suddenly roared, Kang Mingming, you'll die a horrible death. How can you say that about Xiao Fan? You're her first love. She loved you deeply and gave everything to you. How can you say that about her? Do you still have a conscience? Huh. You don't even call me cousin because of a bitch? You even called me by my name? Kang Mingming sneered. Her first love? So what? Who asked her to be a fool? I'm tired of playing with her, so naturally, I don't want her anymore. Am I supposed to raise her all the time? Although my family is rich, the number of women that I dumped is at least 80. If I bring all of them home to raise, I'll be poor. Hearing Kang Mingming's shameless words, Xiao Fan finally couldn't hold back her tears. He was too shameless, destroying the last bit of hope in Xiao Fan's heart. Even if he calmly said that he didn't like her anymore, so they broke up, Xiao Fan could still accept it. But Kang Mingming said that she was a fool. He said that she gave everything for him was a fool. Xiao Fan cried. She cried sadly. How can you say that? I already knew that you're not a good person. I should have forcefully broken you guys up. Tang Yuan was infuriated as well. She pointed at Kang Xiaoming, the heartless bastard, and couldn't help but curse. You are too wicked. I was wondering who it was. Isn't this Tang Yuan? I haven't seen you for a few years. You've gotten prettier? Why? Is this your boyfriend? He's just a... Kang Mingming glanced at Lin Yi with a hint of jealousy. Back then, he failed to pursue Tang Yuan, so he changed to pursue Xiao Fan. He was still brooding over the fact that he didn't get Tang Yuan. Driving this broken car is really degrading. Tang Yuan, I didn't expect your taste to be so bad. That's right. Follow our second young master Kang. I'll buy you a 200,000 yuan car tomorrow. Zhu Xiaozhang jumped out and promised to Tang Yuan. You won't have a future if you follow this idiot. Lin Yi didn't want to get involved in Kang Xiaobo's family business. No matter what, it was his family business. Letting him settle it himself was the best solution. Lin Yi was only a bystander. He only needed to watch Xiao Fan's illness. But he did not expect that this Zhu Xiaozhang diverted the trouble to someone else and bullied his head. If Lin Yi could endure being called idiot, he wouldn't be Lin Yi. Pa! A crisp slap flew over, causing Zhu Xiaozhang to stumble on the ground. Zhu Xiaozhang cried out in pain. He spun 3 times on the ground and spat out 2 bloody teeth. His cheeks instantly swelled up like a steamed bun. Security! Security! Arrest them! Xiaozhang was stunned by the slap, and when he came back to his senses, he started yelling incoherently. How dare Lin Yi hit him? The security captain was hiding far away, watching the confrontation between the 2 groups of House Kong. He wanted to watch the show, but he didn't think that Zhu Xiaozhang would get slapped by Lin Yi. That wasn't a big deal, but the problem was that Zhu Xiaozhang called for security after getting slapped. The security captain was in a difficult position. He regretted not running far away. Now he was in a dilemma. If he went, he would definitely offend Lin Yi. He didn't know what kind of relationship this guy had with Li Yixuan. Offending him wouldn't end well. But they couldn't ignore Zhu Xiaozhang's call. They had just received a few hundred kuai in tips from Zhu Xiaozhang. It wouldn't be right to turn their backs on him so quickly. Moreover, Zhu Xiaozhang was staring at them. As the security guards of the resort, they had to show up. Just as the security captain was in a dilemma, another group of security guards ran over. One of them was a fat security captain. When he heard Zhu Xiaozhang's call for help, he rushed over. "Brother Xiaozhang, what's wrong?" This fat security captain was called Zhong Dingwei. He was the captain in charge of the banquet hall security. He had received a 2,000 kuai red packet from the Kong family, so he did his best for the Kong family. Chapter 371. Another slap that kid. He hit me. Take him to the security room and teach him a lesson. Zhu Xiaozhang held his cheek as he mumbled, "He's here to cause trouble." Zhu Xiaozhang was furious, but no one had dared to hit him since he'd been a lackey for Kong Mingming for so many years. As the saying goes, you need to look at the owner before you hit a dog. Naturally, people had to give face to Kong Mingming. But he wasn't an idiot. He only told the security to take Linny away, not Kong Xiaobo. No matter what, Kong Xiaobo was still a member of House Kong. Humiliating him was fine, but beating him up would be a big deal. It'd be hard to explain it to Dr. Kong if he asked. Everyone knew that Dr. Kong cared about his face the most. Putting aside how he treated Kong Xiaobo's family in private, he still had to act respectfully on the surface. Otherwise, he wouldn't have invited Kong Xiaobo's family to his birthday party. The captain of the security team, Zhong Dingwei, looked at Lin Yi as he made up his mind. The kid's clothes were all cheap, and he didn't look like he had any background or status. "Kid, how dare you cause trouble in Moon on the Sea Resort? You've got guts. Come with us." Lin Yi. Tang Yin was a little nervous. She pulled on Lin Yi's arm, not wanting him to leave. Although Lin Yi had beaten up the Big Four in school, that was still a school. They were in society now, and these security guards clearly didn't have good intentions. Would Lin Yi be able to come back if he went with them? Lin Yi squeezed Tang Yin's hand and whispered into her ear, "It'll be fine. Don't forget that I know their boss." Tang Yun's ears went soft from Lin Yi's whispers. She blushed and looked at him. Even at a time like this, he still didn't forget to play tricks on her. Lin Yi was right. He knew the boss here. What was there to be afraid of? Zhong Dingwei saw that Lin Yi was ignoring him and whispering to the girl beside him. His face darkened. This was provocation and contempt. "You think you're awesome? I'm talking to you. Didn't you hear me?" Zhong Dingwei reached out to pull Lin Yi's collar, but Lin Yi pushed him aside. "Where did the dog come from? Are you retarded? Which eye of yours saw me hit him?" "I'd say he hit himself." Lin Yi laughed coldly. His eyes suddenly turned to where the security captain was hiding. "Don't you think so?" The captain didn't get along with Zhong Dingwei. He wanted to see Zhong Dingwei make a fool of himself. He didn't think that Lin Yi would ask him to come out and testify. Cold sweat formed on the captain's forehead. He didn't dare offend Lin Yi, but he just accepted Zhu Xiaozhang's money. He'd be offending both sides if he kept his mouth shut, and wouldn't be getting any favors from either side. The captain made up his mind. He already had a grudge against Zhong Dingwei. So what if he helped Lin Yi testify? Hence, he rushed out and pointed at Zhu Xiaozhang. "I saw it. He hit himself." "Zhong Dingwei, you're the captain of the banquet hall. I'm in charge of the security outside. Why are you sticking your nose in?" Zhong Dingwei blinked. Zhu Xiaozhang hit himself? Is this for real? However, when he saw Zhu Xiaozhang's vicious eyes, he understood. Zhu Xiaozhang definitely didn't hit himself. Who would be so stupid as to hit themselves for fun? "Old Sui, this has nothing to do with you. Do you want to testify? Do you know who Mr. Zhu Xiaozhang is? He's second young Master Kang's." Before Zhong Dingwei finished, he was interrupted by Lin Yi. "It's just a dog." Lin Yi curled his lips. "Ha ha ha ha." Kong Xiaobo laughed. In this situation, Lin Yi still dared to make such a joke. This made Kong Xiaobo feel very refreshed. All this time, Kong Xiaoming had always been the one suppressing him, but now, the people on his side were being trampled by Lin Yi. The most amazing thing was that someone came to testify. Zhu Xiaozhang's face turned the color of pig liver. Kong Mingming's face didn't look too good either. He didn't know where this Lin Yi came from. How could he make old Sway, the captain of the security team, betray him? Kid, who the F***ck are you? Do you believe that I won't let you leave Moon on the Sea? Zhu Xiaozhang was going crazy. When had he ever been humiliated like this? He came here to humiliate Kong Xiaobo and Lan Fawn. He didn't expect to be humiliated by someone else. If he didn't get his revenge, he wouldn't be able to raise his head in the upper class of Donghai. Slap. It was another loud slap. But this time, no one saw Linny make a move. This time, Zhu Xiaozhang's swollen face was on the right side. According to the palm print, he was hit with his left hand. But now, Lin Yi's left hand was holding Tang Yun's hand. You dare hit me? Captain Zhong, did you see this? He was the one who hit me. Hurry up and bring him back. We have a witness here. Let's see if he still won't admit it. Zhu Xiaozhang bared his fangs and brandished his claws as he yelled, All of you, keep an eye on him. I'll teach him a lesson after the banquet ends. But this time, Kong Mingming and Wang Shubin didn't speak up for Zhu Xiaozhang. Zhong Dingwei, on the other hand, was stunned. The first slap was indeed from Lin Yi, but who was the one who did the second slap? Lin Yi's left hand was holding Tang Yun's hand. This was a fact that everyone saw. Plus, no one saw him make a move. What's wrong with you guys? Zhu Xiaozhang waited for a while, but Zhong Dingwei didn't move. Kong Mingming and Wang Shubin didn't say anything either. He felt that something was wrong. You really are a lackey. You only have the IQ of a dog. Linny looked at Zhu Xiaozhang with sympathy. You're starting to get delusional. There are so many people here, and no one saw me hit you. But you're saying that I hit you. You're hopeless. I suggest you buy some retarded pills. Maybe it will increase your IQ. Ha 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 ha. Xiaobo started laughing heartily. He'd never felt so proud of himself before, and seeing Zhu Xiaozhang and the others get humiliated was incredibly satisfying. Even Fawn, who'd been crying a while ago, had a smile on her face. She, too, felt like she'd vented her anger. Chapter 372. Suffering in silence. Tang Yun had thought that it was just her imagination, but it seemed like that wasn't the case. Linny had made his move, but it was too fast and too ingenious. No one saw how he did it. Tang Yun was pleasantly surprised. She blamed Linny for being so evil, making Zhu Xiaozhang suffer in silence. It's your doing, right? Xiaozhang didn't believe that Linny wasn't the one who hit him. His face was swollen. Captain Zhong, pull out the recording and see if it's him. Xiaozhang wasn't that stupid, he was furious. But he still thought of using the recording as evidence. I'm sorry, but I'm the one in charge of the security at the entrance. I refuse your request. Old Sway was already standing firmly on Lin Yi's side, so he had to go all the way. There's so many people here, and none of them saw this Mr. hit someone. Your request is unreasonable. Are you saying that we're all blind? Xiaozhang, of course, wasn't calling him blind. Even if he did, he wouldn't say it out loud. He was only suspecting that Linny had used some sort of distraction tactic to achieve his goal. Old Sway, you're here to protect these troublemakers, aren't you? Dingwei couldn't find any evidence, but he couldn't just ignore what was happening in front of him. He had to start from another angle. I'm just telling the truth. I really didn't see anything, and neither did you. Old Sway said faintly. All right, Old Sway. Don't you know that Mr. Zhu and Master Kong are our honored guests? Li Bro specifically told us to ensure their safety. Now that Xiaozhang Bro is in trouble in your turf, I'd like to see how Li Bro is going to handle this. Dingwei pulled out his walkie-talkie and pressed a few numbers and a call button. He and Old Sway were of the same rank, both security captains. They didn't have any direct superiors or subordinates, so Old Sway could only use his superiors to pressure him. Whatever. When Old Sway heard that Zhong Dingwei was looking for Ishuan, he was overjoyed. He was afraid that Old Sway would not look for him. Now that Ishuan was here, and he knew Lin Yi, things would be easier. Dingwei Zhong thought that Lao Sway was being stubborn. He sneered and said to the walkie-talkie, Brotherly, there are some problems at the entrance of the banquet hall. Someone is beating up our VIP, and Captain Sway is covering for him. Okay, I will wait for you. After Zhong Dingwei finished, he looked at Old Sway proudly and thought to himself, let's see how you die. When Li Yixuan heard that someone was beating up a VIP, he didn't dare to delay and immediately rushed over on his electric scooter. However, when he got off the scooter, he saw Lin Yi. Li Yixuan hesitated for a moment before deciding to greet Lin Yi first. Lin Yi was someone that President Tian had specially briefed several times. Li Yixuan naturally knew that if he wasn't an important person or had a close relationship with President Tian would not have briefed him so many times. "Mr. Lin, you're here too." Li Yixuan walked over quickly and politely extended his hand to Lin Yi. Lin Yi extended his hand and shook Li Yixuan's hand casually. "I'm accompanying a buddy to his second grandfather's birthday banquet." Li Yixuan nodded and said politely, "Mr. Lin, please go ahead. If you have any instructions, just give me a call." Li Yixuan thought that Lin Yi was just passing by and wanted to enter the banquet hall, so he didn't pay much attention. However, Li Yixuan's words shocked everyone present, including the security captain, Ding Weizhong. He finally understood why Old Sui lied through his teeth and stood firmly on Lin Yi's side. He knew that Lin Yi was Li Yixuan's real VIP. From Li Yixuan's words, his attitude towards Lin Yi could be seen. Ding Weizhong looked at Old Sui's bright smile and wanted to punch him. He had been tricked by Old Sui. It wasn't worth it for him to stand out like this. He had pleased Zhu Xiaozhang, but he had offended Li Yixuan. "Little Zhong, what's going on? Who beat up a VIP?" Li Yixuan asked Ding Weizhong after he and Lin Yi exchanged greetings. "Hee, brotherly, it's like this. This Zhu Xiaozhang guy said that I beat him, but I didn't. Everyone saw it clearly. But this Captain Zhong also said that I beat Zhu Xiaozhang." Lin Yi said plainly. "Oh." Li Yixuan was stunned. He didn't expect this to be related to Lin Yi. "I can testify that Mr. Lin didn't beat Zhu Xiaozhang. Everyone here saw it. Brotherly, you can ask the crowd." Old Sui said confidently. Lin Yi did slap Zhu Xiaozhang, but there was no one at the banquet hall. Ding Wei wasn't there either. As long as Lin Yi didn't admit it, no one would testify for him. But the second slap was not only witnessed by Ding Weizhong, but also by the crowd. No matter who was asked, they could all testify that Lin Yi didn't beat Zhu Xiaozhang. "Little Zhong, what's going on?" Brother Li's face darkened. Although he felt that there was a problem, Old Sui's words were most likely credible. Seeing that the crowd didn't refute him, he was even more convinced that Ding Weizhong was lying. This, maybe I saw it wrong. How could Ding Wei not understand the situation? If he still dared to help Zhu Xiaozhang, he would be offending Li Yixuan. "Ding Weizhong, IF King gave you 2,000 yuan, and you're saying you saw it wrong?" Zhu Xiaozhang exploded. He was hit, but no one believed him. His face was swollen like a bun, but no one believed him. Was there anything more painful than this in the world? Was there? Oh! The crowd of onlookers burst into laughter. Zhu Xiaozhang didn't shout about the inside story. Although they didn't see how Lin Yi hit Zhu Xiaozhang's face was indeed swollen. Some people still suspected that Lin Yi did something to it. But now that Zhu Xiaozhang was yelling like this, there was no doubt that Zhu Xiaozhang was the one who bribed Zhong Dingwei, and that he was beating himself up. Li Yixuan's gloomy gaze stopped on Ding Weizhong's face. "Go back to the security office and write a self-reflection. If you can't do it, then get out." How could Ding Wei dare to say no? He ran away with his tail between his legs, leaving the furious Zhu Xiaozhang behind. Chapter 373. The first round. Kong Mingming knew that he'd be humiliated if he kept this up. There were a lot of onlookers already, and they could prove that Lin Yi didn't hit Zhu Xiaozhang. It was hard to say how Zhu Xiaozhang's face got swollen. Kong Mingming suspected that Lin Yi was behind this, but he couldn't do anything without evidence. If Lin Yi didn't know Li Yixuan, it'd be easier. He could just find an excuse and let the security take him away. But Lin Yi knew Li Yixuan, and from the looks of it, they were close. "Lin Yi, right? I'll remember you." Kong Mingming glared at Lin Yi, then at Kong Xiaobo and Lan Fon. "You're standing up for them, aren't you? I hope you don't regret this." "Heh, some people have done things they shouldn't. I wonder if they regret it now?" Lin Yi smiled, not taking Kong Mingming's threat to heart. "Let's go." Kang Xiaoming waved his hand and left with Zhu Xiaozhang and Wang Shubin. They walked towards the banquet hall unwillingly. Kang Xiaobo really wanted to wave his hands and shout, "Long live the king," 3 times. He thought that today's meeting with Kang Mingming would be difficult, full of humiliation and helplessness. Kang Xiaobo was prepared to endure everything. After all, this was Kang Mingming's turf, and he wasn't Kang Mingming's opponent. He knew that the weak couldn't win against the strong. But he didn't expect that in the first round of battle with Kang Mingming, his side would gain the upper hand. Kang Mingming had to suffer in silence, and he left with his tail between his legs. "Xiaofan, did you see boss's power? With him around, we won't suffer any losses," Kang Xiaobo firmly said as he held onto Xiaofan's hand. And Xiaofan had completely given up on Kang Mingming. When she saw Kang Mingming's ugly face, Xiaofan felt a sense of relief. She felt that it wasn't worth it for her to be so haggard all these years. She felt that her actions of jumping off the building were laughable. How could she have fallen in love with such a cruel and unscrupulous person? At this moment, Xiaofan had walked out of the shadow in her heart. She could face her life bravely in the future. Because Kang Mingming wasn't worth her sacrifice, she could only pretend that she was blind. Seeing the smile on Xiaofan's face, Kang Xiaobo let out a breath of relief. Tang Yun was also happy for her. "Xiaofan, have you thought it through?" "Yes, I've thought it through. I was too stupid in the past." Xiaofan shook her head in self-mockery. "This kind of person. How can I like this kind of person? I should cherish what I have now." As she spoke, Xiaofan held onto Kang Xiaobo's hand even tighter. Kang Xiaobo was instantly excited. In the past, although he and Xiaofan had feelings for each other, and they both acknowledged their relationship, Kang Xiaobo knew that there was always a shadow in Xiaofan's heart, and that was Kang Mingming. If he didn't get over this, he would always be Kang Mingming's substitute. This made Kang Xiaobo very uncomfortable, and it was also the reason why he insisted on bringing Xiaofan to see Kang Mingming. But at this moment, Kang Xiaobo knew that Xiaofan had already confessed to him and expressed her feelings. How could Kang Xiaobo not be excited? "Young Master Lin, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Call me if there's anything." Li Yixuan saw that there was nothing else for him to do, so he nodded to Lin Yi and said politely. Lin Yi nodded. "Sorry to trouble you, Brother Li." Li Yixuan gestured that it was nothing and left on the electric scooter. Lin Yi, Tang Yun, Kang Xiaobo, and Xiaofan walked into the banquet hall, and the crowd followed them. Among these people, there were people who knew Kang Xiaobo and Kang Ming and knew that they were cousins. They only treated the conflict between the younger generation of the Kang family as a joke. Dr. Kang's birthday banquet was a Western-style buffet. Kang Xiaobo brought Lin Yi to a corner of the banquet hall. Actually, the purpose of this time was achieved. Xiaofan saw Kang Mingming's true colors and let her walk out of the shadow in her heart, allowing her to have a new life. After entering the banquet hall, Xiaofan's mood was a little down. She must have been affected by the previous incident. Although she was completely disappointed in Kang Mingming, anyone who encountered such an incident would feel bad, especially after being stupid for so many years, persevering for so many years, and in the end, it was all for naught. Anyone would feel uncomfortable. Tang Yun persuaded Xiaofan softly, but this kind of thing didn't need anyone to persuade her. She would be fine after a few days. "Boss, since we're here, it's not good for us to leave immediately. But after the younger generation celebrates the birthday, we can leave directly. I don't want to stay here for another minute." Kang Xiaobo was extremely disgusted with Kang Mingming's face. "Is that person your father?" Lin Yi didn't answer Kang Xiaobo's question. Instead, he pointed at a middle-aged man not far away. Beside him was Kang Mingming, who was gesticulating and saying something. "It's my dad, but what is Kang Mingming doing?" Kang Xiaobo was stunned. He didn't understand why Kang Mingming went to look for his father. Could it be that he went to complain? Kang Mingming couldn't be such a coward, right? After being humiliated at the entrance, he went to complain to the adults? "I'm guessing that it's about Xiaofan." Lin Yi frowned. "I didn't expect Kang Mingming to be so mean. He actually went to your dad and said bad things about Xiaofan. F***CK his 18 generations of ancestors." Kang Xiaobo was furious. If what Lin Yi said was true, then wasn't Kang Mingming a little too despicable? "Heh, His 18 generations of ancestors. Isn't it your 18 generations of ancestors? Linny smiled. Actually, it's nothing. You should think about it. You will have to tell your parents about this matter sooner or later. After he said this, you can tell your parents about Xiaofan's experience. I think they aren't unreasonable people. Linny saw that Kang Xiaobo's father was a good person. Although he wanted to save some face, he wasn't a cold-hearted bad person. As long as he was reasonable and moved by his emotions, it wouldn't be difficult for him to accept Xiaofan. Really? Kang Xiaobo heard Lin Yi's words and was overjoyed. Bro, you aren't lying to me, right? Why would I lie to you? Lin Yi shook his head. If it doesn't work, I can help you. Lin Yi's understanding of people's hearts was very accurate. He could help Kang Xiaobo. Chapter 374. Too bad it's fake. As expected, Kang Xiaobo's father frowned as he looked at Kang Xiaobo's side. He couldn't help but frown when he saw the 2 boys and 2 girls. He didn't think too much about it before. It was normal for his son to bring his classmates to the banquet, but 2 boys and 2 girls? That was a little too obvious. Kung Fu also suspected that there were 2 couples after hearing Kong Mingming's words. Did his son learn bad things? But Mr. Kong couldn't ask Xiaobo about it in front of everyone, and he knew that his nephew wasn't doing this out of goodwill. He tried so hard to stop Xiaobo and his classmate from staying at the hotel, after all, and there had to be some sort of grudge between them. It seemed that the grudge was with the girl beside his son. As for the girl shamelessly seducing this and that, Kung Fu was skeptical. Dr. Kang's birthday banquet officially started at 10 in the morning, and Lin Yi saw a few familiar faces. There was Lu Tianyi and Guan Xuemin, both of them sitting at a table and chatting. Dr. Kang's eldest son, the current head of Dr. Kang's group, Kang Guifeng, was also sitting at their table, chatting with the 2 of them. Lin Yi didn't go over to greet them. He hid in the corner, waiting for the banquet to start. Kang Xiaobo gave his gift and left. It seemed that after he created the Miracle Dr. Guan brand, it was inevitable that he would become Dr. Kang's competitor. He didn't have to worry about anything anymore. Judging from Kang Xiaobo's current situation, there was no way he could get back together with Kong Mingming's family. At least not with Xiaofan around. Amidst the impassioned speech of the MC and the applause of the guests, Dr. Kong slowly walked out. This was an old man with a rather dignified appearance. He was dressed in a red Han costume and had the temperament of an ancient Chinese medicine practitioner. Although it was a little speechless to become a leading enterprise in the domestic pharmaceutical industry because of a magical prescription, it was undeniable that Dr. Kang's golden creation did have a magical effect. Of course, many old people in the medical field didn't care much about Dr. Kong, because in their opinion, Dr. Kong couldn't be called a miracle doctor at all. They didn't know where he got a good prescription from, which made him the Dr. Kong of today. Looking at the other medicines produced by his company, they were nothing more than common medicines for common colds, headaches, and fever. The formulas were all open to the public, and there was nothing special about them. If it weren't for his golden creation medicine's reputation, he might not even be able to sell his home medicine. But he was lucky. With the red medicine, no matter what he produced later on, even if it was a normal medicine, it would still sell well. That was why he was able to create such a colossus like Dr. Kang's medical group in a short period of time. In fact, many people knew that Dr. Kang's medical skills weren't great. Thank you, guests, for coming to Dr. Kang's 62nd birthday. Next, we will send our blessings from Dr. Kang's descendants. The MC started the first procedure of the birthday banquet, which was to let the descendants present their gifts. After the descendants had presented their gifts, it would be the turn of the famous people in the society and Dr. Kang's friends. As for the others, they wouldn't have the chance to present their gifts on stage and could only place their gifts at the registration counter at the entrance. The first to go on stage was Dr. Kang's eldest son, Kang Guifeng. He walked up the stage with his head held high, holding a red brocade box in his hand. The packaging was exquisite. Dad, I'm giving you a 100-year Tianshan snow lotus. His eldest son, Kang Guifeng, presented the brocade box with both hands and said respectfully, I wish Dad a long and healthy life. Good, very good. Bring it over and let me have a look. Dr. Kong ordered the MC. The MC quickly presented the brocade box to Dr. Kong. He opened it, and there was indeed 100-year Tianshan snow lotus in it. Looking at its size, even if it wasn't 100-year Tianshan snow lotus, it was at least 70 or 80 years old. Wow! Everyone was excited. As expected of a family of miracle doctors, even their birthday gifts were rare treasures. After the eldest son, Kong Guifeng, left the stage, it was his youngest son, Kong Tsuepu, who presented his gift. He was holding a similar brocade box in his hand. It was incomparably beautiful. Dad, I'm giving you 1,000-year ginseng. It has already begun to take human form. This is a wild ginseng that I've sent people to search the mountains for 3 years and 3 months. Kong Tsuepu presented the brocade box with both hands and said respectfully, I wish Dad a long and happy life. Good, good, good. Dr. Kong said good 3 times in a row. He gestured to the MC and said, let me have a look. I want to see what 1,000-year ginseng looks like. His eldest son, Kong Guifeng, presented 100-year Tianshan snow lotus. It was already rare, but this 1,000-year ginseng was even rarer. How could Dr. Kong not be excited? The MC quickly presented the brocade box to Dr. Kong. Dr. Kong opened the brocade box, and there was indeed a huge ginseng inside. It had already grown into human form. Although he didn't know if it was 1,000-year ginseng, it was indeed a rare treasure. All the guests gasped as they looked at the ginseng in Miracle Dr. Kang's hands enviously, congratulating him non-stop. Your uncle really knows how to curry favor. He gave me a ginseng, but it's fake. It seems like he's the same as that Kong Ming, a master of swindling people. Lin Yi's voice wasn't loud. He was only talking to Kong Xiaobo, Tang Yun, and Xiaofan. However, the guests nearby heard it. Fake? Is it real? The guests nearby heard Lin Yi's words and were in an uproar. They couldn't help but look at Lin Yi. If these people didn't pay attention, things would have been fine. But the noise was heard by Kong Tsuepu, and he looked at Lin Yi's direction with a cold, unfriendly gaze. However, Kong Tsuepu didn't say anything. He signaled his son, Kong Ming. Kong Ming immediately jumped out and pointed at Lin Yi. Where did this guy come from? What fake? How can this ginseng be fake? Seeing Kong Ming jump out in such a hurry, Lin Yi smiled faintly. Since it's artificially cultivated, it's naturally fake. Not to mention 1,000-year ginseng, it's not even 10 years old. Lin Yi didn't want to interfere with Kong Xiaobo's family matters. However, this Kong Ming was too despicable. Lin Yi didn't mind mocking him a bit. He wanted to embarrass him and his father. Guards, throw him out for me. How dare he cause trouble at Grandpa's birthday banquet? Kong Ming roared angrily. The security guards in the banquet hall knew about the relationship between Lin Yi and Li Yixuan. Although they heard Kong Ming's order, they didn't dare to make a move. Chapter 375. How embarrassing. Although he didn't know much about ginseng, he didn't really trust his youngest son. His youngest son never did proper work, never went to the company, and used the dividends from the shares to eat, drink, and gamble. His grandson was just like him. What kind of 1,000-year-old ginseng could he dig up? Even Dr. Kong himself didn't believe it. But whether it was real or fake, this was his son's sincerity. Even if it was fake, he couldn't show it in front of outsiders. If there was anything, it should be discussed behind closed doors. Now that an outsider like Lin Yi had said it out loud, Dr. Kong felt like he had lost a lot of face. Kid, why do you say this ginseng is fake? Although Dr. Kang's voice was a little angry, he still maintained a calm demeanor. If you're just spouting nonsense, then apologize, and I'll pretend I didn't hear it. But if you don't, then I'm sorry, we don't welcome you here. Dr. Kang's words were reasonable, and no one could find fault with them. Instead, they felt that he was very magnanimous. Lin Yi had embarrassed them like this, and Dr. Kong only wanted Lin Yi to apologize. Lin Yi didn't expect these people to have such a big reaction. Even the old Dr. Kong had jumped out. It seemed that if he didn't say a few words, he would implicate Kong Xiaobo. Lin Yi could only stand up and explain helplessly. Wild ginseng has a long reed head and dense reed bowls. The ginseng body is the same length as the root. It has a human shape and a horizontal body. The horizontal lines on the main root are fine and clear. The color is darker, and the skin is thin and tough. There are many obvious pearl bumps. The cultivated ginseng is called garden ginseng. It has a short reed head and few reed bowls. The ginseng body is cylindrical, and the horizontal lines on the main root are sparse and discontinuous. The skin is thick and brittle, and the pearl bumps are not obvious. As for the authenticity of this ginseng, I think there should be experts in this field. Dr. Kong doesn't know, but there should be someone who knows, right? Lin Yi's words were very hurtful. It was obvious that he was mocking Dr. Kong for not knowing how to differentiate between real and fake ginseng. How could he be called a divine doctor? Dr. Kang's face changed. He didn't expect Lin Yi's words to be so logical. He thought that Lin Yi was just talking nonsense. He stood up and said something to give him a way out. But now, Dr. Kong was in a dilemma. Nonsense. Kong Ming jumped out again. Grandpa, don't listen to this guy's nonsense. He was sent here by Kong Xiaobo to cause trouble. Let's put the ginseng away and ignore him. Kong Ming's words obviously made people think that he had a guilty conscience. If the ginseng wasn't fake, he should take it out and let the experts here identify it. Why did he ask them to put it away? Kong Ming did have a guilty conscience. This ginseng was bought with his father, Kong Tuipu. How could he not know whether it was real or fake? This ginseng was bought from an artificial farm. It only cost a few thousand yuan. How could it be a 1,000-year-old ginseng? But Kong Tuipu and Kong Ming both knew that their father didn't know whether the ginseng was real or fake. Kong Tuipu's brother, Kong Guifeng, also didn't know. Even if Kong Guifeng guessed that it was fake, he wouldn't lose face in front of others. Besides, Kong Tuipu only took the dividends in the company and didn't fight for power. This made Kong Guifeng have no resentment towards Kong Tuipu. The two brothers got along well. Kong Guifeng often cleaned up after Kong Tuipu's bad things. However, they didn't expect that Lin Yi would appear out of nowhere. Forget it. Take it away. Whether it's real or fake, it's a gift from Tuipu. Dr. Kong was not stupid. Since Lin Yi said so, he must be confident. If he took it seriously, he would only humiliate himself. It was better to admit it generously. Anyway, others knew what kind of person his youngest son was. His reputation was already bad. It didn't matter if it was a little bit more. Dr. Kong admitted it so casually. It didn't cause any uproar. Since Dr. Kong said so, people didn't want to distinguish whether it was real or fake. Next was Kong Xiaobo's father. It was a very ordinary gift. It was just a few years old Ganoderma. Kong Tuipu and Kong Ming had wanted to find fault with it, but it was just a few years old Ganoderma. You couldn't find any fault with a few years old Ganoderma. It wasn't a rare item in the first place. If they wanted to find fault with it, it would be like picking bones in an egg. Kong Tuipu and Kong Ming didn't have a choice. They could only vent their anger on Kong Xiaobo later. The sons and grandsons had all given their gifts. Now, it was the grandson's turn. But according to Dr. Kang's patriarchal mindset, only men were allowed to give gifts. Granddaughters couldn't go up. The first to go up was Kong Guifeng's son, Kong Xiaolong. This Kong Xiaolong looked older, around 20 years old. He wore glasses and looked like a gentleman. He held a document in his hand as he walked up steadily. Grandpa, this is a research topic I researched during my PhD studies. I've already obtained a patent for it. This is a certificate from the school. Kong Xiaolong handed the certificate over respectfully. The MC was about to take it when Dr. Kong waved his hand and walked up himself. His face was flushed, the unhappiness from before gone. Good, Xiaolong, good job. I'm very happy. With that, Miracle Dr. Kong took the certificate and looked at it with a smile. He patted Xiaolong's shoulder. Work hard. You're the next generation Miracle Doctor of House Kong. Xiaolong nodded. Wah wah. The audience applauded. Everyone knew that Miracle Dr. Kong was choosing his successor. Is your eldest cousin a medical student? Lin Yi was a little surprised. He didn't expect Dr. Kang's family to have someone who studied medicine. Yes, he graduated from a proper medical school and is currently studying for a PhD in traditional Chinese medicine. Kong Xiaobo introduced. Actually, he's the only one who really knows medicine. It was a little ironic and funny, but it was the truth. Lin Yi was speechless as well. Why did Miracle Dr. Kang's family seem to be so unorthodox? After that, it was Kang Xiaoming's turn. His gift was even more mysterious. He said it was some kind of ancient prescription, but with his father Kang Tsuepu's example, no one was curious anymore. It was obvious that it was fake. How could ancient prescriptions be so easily obtained? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.